to this AMAYE conference, Shine Brighter with Yoga Practices. Our prestigious yoga educators from around the world will be offering presentations on the biopsychology of jhana and niyama, how yoga affects our nerves and hormones, how mantra, chakra, and visualization support meditation, new understandings of biopsychology, and how mantra, chakra, and visualization support meditation, new understandings of biopsychology, and last but not least, balance pose yoga. So here is a schedule of the Shine Bright conference today. All of these will be recorded and put on the AMAYE website by November 14th. And that AMAYE, if you want to contact AMAYE, you can reach us at info@amaye.org. So I am Mahajoti, your MC, and a member of the AMAYE team. AMAYE, if we're not on your radar, stands for the Ananda Marga Association of Yoga Educators. We have a quarterly newsletter with articles for those who teach Ashtanga Yoga to adults and kids. And these are free for all subscribers. And we like to sponsor these conferences once every 2 years. Currently, we are almost done. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We are almost done with the Ananda Marga Yoga Guide. And this guide will cover all Ananda Marga asanas, including instructions, modifications, benefits, chakras, and organs affected, and other aspects of the Ananda Marga yoga system. This will also become available by the end of the year. So please contact us at info@amaye.org if you're interested in participating, even in some teeny way, and especially to share your yoga news with us, because we know that you're impacting other people's lives. So our special thanks to our co-sponsor for the Shine Brighter Conference, the Neo-Humanist College of Asheville, to whom we are infinitely grateful, and also to Rishi, who is our host today. We'd like to send out a huge thank you of appreciation to everyone who made a donation to help us pull this off. So let's get right down to it. The biopsychology of jhana and niyama. Rudra Mohan has been a teacher of meditation and yoga for over 40 years. He has written and published, I stopped counting at 20, over 20 books. He's a very prolific writer. He is an advocate for children, developing curricula for early childhood education and several other community programs. But I think one of the things that makes Rudra Mohan very unique is that he has worked extensively with individuals of differing abilities and special needs. He participates as a presenter on such topics as storytelling, how to teach children's yoga, specialized yoga, parent-child workshops, and neo-humanist education all over the world. But primarily, I think his focus has been in Asia. His most recent prize is his 3-level Yoga of Emotion program, which is based on the psycho-spiritual dimensions of yoga. So it's hot off the shelves. Also, he has been to Africa and Europe, Canada, India, the Philippines, Malaysia, and China. His home base is in Taipei. Please join me in welcoming Rudra Mohan.
Majoti, thank you so much for your beautiful introduction. It's a great honor to be a speaker on this prestigious global online conference. And today my topic is biopsychology of Jama and Niyama. And traditionally, in yoga, we have 8 aspects. And the first 2 are Jama and Niyama. And then we get the asana, the pranayama, and the different meditations. So the 8 limb yoga system, Jama and Niyama, are the first 2 steps. And today I like to talk more about the biopsychology of this Jama and Niyama, because usually when we, especially for example, when I started, I focused very much on the techniques. I wanted to learn different meditation techniques. I wanted to learn different asanas and breathing exercises. And Jama Niyama was kind of, I felt a little bit it's like the appendix. It's there, and we need it somewhere, sometime, but we really don't know too much about it. But in our yoga system, especially in the early days when our guru used to initiate personally, he would write down Jama and Niyama as precondition for initiation. And so he emphasized Jama and Niyama and the application of Jama and Niyama in personal life. So today I like to talk more about it and from maybe my personal perspective as a Westerner, and encourage people maybe to explore more. Now here today I want first to start with a story. And the story is a Buddhist and a yogi. They went to a retreat. And it happened that they would stay in the same. And it was a 3-day program. So every night they would sit together, and the yogi would do his asanas, his breathing, his meditation, and concentrate his mind to develop his focus. And the Buddhist, he would do his attention practices. So he would take a raisin, hold the raisin, look at the raisin, smell the raisin, turn the raisin over, hold it in the hand, feel the raisin, and then put it in the mouth and chew for 20 minutes and then swallow the raisin. So in 1 hour, he would eat 3 raisins. So then the yogi would tell him, hey, brother, why don't you come and learn some asanas? I would show you some really powerful techniques. And he said, there is another yoga mat over there. And the Buddhist, he picked up the bag and he felt the fabric of the bag around the mat. He looked at the string that tied up the bag. He looked at the knot. He felt the bag. He felt the knot. And he slowly opened the mat and he smelled the mat and he put it on the floor and it made a plopping sound on the floor. And he slowly unrolled the mat. By the time our Buddhist friend was on the mat, the yogi had finished practices. And every day they were there together in that same. One is very sincere in his yogic practices, and one was very sincere in his building his attention and bringing his presence to every small action and every thought. But internally, they looked at each other and they were kind of clashed. At the end of the program, the facilitator asked everybody to share. And the yogi stood up and he said, your program was wonderful, but, I had a hard time because my brother, the Buddhist brother, I want to encourage him to appreciate and practice the powerful concentration techniques of yoga. He is busy holding that raisin and looking and feeling and smelling and turning over and appreciating and then chewing it. And said, I got a little bit frustrated in these 3 days. And then the Buddhist brother stood up and he said, please forgive me. My practice teaches me compassion, teaches me to bring love and awareness to each and every action. I'm sorry I got you upset, but you have been concentrating your mind with so much energy and so much focus, and you end up with frustration. Then what is the purpose of your practice? Now, the facilitator of this workshop said, both of you sit down. And he said, don't you see, actually, both of you, you need each other. If you want to bring awareness in your life, you need certain level of concentration to deepen that awareness. And if you want to build concentration, you need deep presence to bring that concentration to a fruitful and beautiful result. So I tell you this story because I have this kind of conversations with my Buddhist friends. And of course, we are in a much more friendly atmosphere, but there is a difference in emphasis in the Buddhist tradition and in the yogic tradition, at least some Buddhist traditions. I live in Taiwan, and in Taiwan, we have Buddhist organizations who don't do meditation, who don't do breathing, of course, they don't do asanas, and maybe even they're not vegetarian, but they emphasize to bring attention to every thought and every action. And their behavior is very pure and very sentient, very sacrificing, very inspiring. You just feel, I like to be around these people. And in their tradition, their masters, they also attain high states of awareness. I've seen in their tradition, there are masters who can predict their death, who can, who have these yogic powers, but they don't do sadhana. And so the idea that only through sadhana we can develop our highest awareness, maybe that needs a rethinking. And so what I want to discuss is to research and explore more the actually what happens when we follow the values that we have in Jama and Niyama. Because our practice, Jama and Niyama, these are our practices when we are not on the mat and when we are around, when we are living in the society. And so the first principle of Jama is ahimsa. And so this is my symbol for ahimsa when I share with my audience, my children. So ahimsa usually is translated as non-violence. And so non-violence, in this case, means we don't hurt other people. But if we take this principle in an expanded way, we can also say it is compassion. Okay, so ahimsa teaches us not only not to hurt others, but to treat everybody with compassion, with patience, with tolerance and acceptance. Now, you have to keep in mind that when Patanjali composed the Yoga Sutras, and there were different systems for Jama and Niyama. Actually, mostly they were Niyamas, okay? And within the Niyamas, sometimes there were 20, 23, 25. There were long lists of good values and good thoughts. And at the same time, you had the Jains. And so the Jain people, they have a similar system as what we have now in the Jamas, what in the Patanjali's 8 limbs. And so it was all kind of fluid. So you can say Patanjali probably he cut it down to a practical 5 jamas and 5 niyamas. So the Jains are very famous for their non-violence, their observance of non-violence. But I hope you can expand this principle to also include the other values which were actually left out by Patanjali and maybe were mentioned in other value systems before him. So when we look at compassion, we can see that it increases serotonin and so the neurotransmitters. It helps in impulse control. To people who are more aggressive, they have lower levels of serotonin and they have more difficulty in controlling their impulses. So their behavior becomes more aggressive and more, we can say, crude. And so a person with a biopsychological setup of a violent person has a hard time to do meditation because the mind behavior is maybe aggressive and the mind, this biopsychology of the brain and is not suitable for meditation. And so the idea that we can do meditation and at the same time hurt other people is not just a moral decision, not that moral wrong, but it's also something that's biopsychologically a mismatch. Actually, it is contradictory. And so in our tradition, our guru, he sometimes had to face his disciples and they would tell him, say, Baba, why don't you remove this jama niyama as a prerequisite for seeing you, for getting initiation? And he would say, well, you know, if they come close to me and they will get a spiritual energy, and if their system is not purified enough, that will actually become a problem for them and they become mentally imbalanced. And on the other hand, he said, those who don't follow jama niyama, they cannot continue with their sadhana. Now, from the biopsychological point of view, we see that if your serotonin levels are low, so your nerves, they don't move smoothly, you have a more difficulty in focusing on balancing yourself. And so violence and the observance of ahimsa and non-violence or violence, these are neurological issues. And so if our nerve system is not set up properly and we don't follow this basic principle, then it is hard to do sadhana. Now, this is not something that only yogis research. There are many people studying this, and so they find one way is to service. And so ask them to go and help other people. So they develop not only practically the service mentality, but they also develop the biopsychological balance that can help them manage their aggression. And this is another point I want to mention here, is that aggression is natural, violence is cultural. So how we deal with aggression is a cultural issue. So there are cultures in this society, on this planet today, where violence is not accepted. One comes to mind is the Ladakhi in Buddhist community in Kashmir. And There, if you're angry or you lose your temper, even you're asked to see the doctor. Another society where actually violence as such, at least the killing to that kind of standard is not accepted, the Amish. I remember a few years ago, it was international news. There was one Amish who was upset with another Amish and he cut his beard. And that was kind of a very aggressive certain form of dealing with uh, his aggression. Okay, so we have seen that ahimsa, the first principle, nonviolence, means don't hurt others, is there to bring balance to our neurological system. Now, the second one I want to introduce is satya. And so satya we usually translate as truthfulness or honesty. Okay, so for my children, I translate it as speaking good words, because in Satya, sometimes we speak small lies or we speak negatively to protect other people's feelings. Now, again, research today shows that if you don't follow Satya, if you're a liar or a cheater, your body's biochemistry changes. So you get more cortisol, you get more testosterone, and you'll have more active sympathetic nerve system, and you get higher blood pressure. And so lying again is not just a moral problem; it's a biopsychological problem. A person who lies has a biochemical imbalance that makes it hard to do meditation. Now, I want to extend this concept of satya. So usually we say satya, okay, speaking in a benevolent way. And I also want to link here the idea of being honest, and not just being honest with others, but honest with yourself. So your authenticity. Am I true to myself or not? Again, it is found that if you are living a life, if you live a certain life and you have inside you have another person that actually you're suppressing, people find that you have the left amygdala is more active and you suffer from more anxiety. Again, we see honesty is not just a moral issue, it is a biochemical matter, biopsychological matter. And without this biopsychological balance, it will be very hard to get any concentration in meditation. The third one, the third one of the jamas is asteya. And so asteya usually is translated as non-stealing. And in Baba's days, when our master was reviewing people's behavior, he picked up this very heavily. He was very much against corruption and cheating and this kind of thing. And he would expose it publicly. Now, many times we would see that and we would feel it's a moral thing. But again, from the biopsychological side, it is found that cortisol levels come up when you are a thief or when you are taking what is not yours. Your brain's control system gets kidnapped by your anxieties. Okay, so people who steal or people who lie, actually, their minds becomes kind of distracted so that they don't function properly. So again, go back to satya. And children who suffer from lying and cheating, they also have lower scores on their tests. And there are researches about this. So let's say we take asteya on the simple level as non-stealing. It's not, we can already see the biopsychological side. Now, the opposite of asteya is to be not greedy. And my master says stealing is not just with the hands, it's even with your mind. So the idea of non-greediness, of selflessness, is at the core of our spiritual practices. So if we can practice asteya as a practice of learning to be selfless and to give up the personal desires, and it opens the doors to spirituality. And spirituality has its own biopsychological changes. The fourth of the jamas is brahmacharya. So brahmacharya is actually to see the divine in each and every manifestation, in each and every action of our lives. And so we see the cosmic force guiding us, appearing to us, managing everything. And this is a lesson, that is very hard. I found that is the hardest of all. Because of course they're all hard, because every of these values, their depths, there's so many layers to it that when you're at a certain stage, you have to go deeper, and then you go deeper, and then you finally always come back to the core of the meaning of existence. But brahmacharya is so abstract, especially as a beginning sadhaka, as a beginning meditator. And my teacher would say to me, he says, you fake it till you make it. Okay, so you just keep in mind, all this arrangement of the cosmic, all this cosmic, but it's so hard. And maybe because we have so many attachments. Well, it's very interesting is that if we can maintain this cosmic awareness while doing each and every single action, each and every single thought, our brains change. And of course, commonly it's said the prefrontal cortex becomes more active. Parietal lobes, where there is this sense of self and identity, the parietal lobes, they become less active. So we actually lose sense of our self. And this again, it's a practice. It's a real practice. So if we can maintain this thought, slowly, our nerves and our glands and our thought patterns transform. And we come closer and closer to this realizing brahmacharya. Now, again, there are people who don't do sadhana, who don't do meditation, who don't seek for meditation the way we yogis do, but they experience, you can say, cosmic awareness in action, in their thoughts, or in their environment. And the story is of Socrates, that he would stand still for hours, not move. People would call him, he wouldn't move, and he would just stay there. And of course, we don't know what he did, because those days, whatever people expressed had a different language, different vocabulary. But what is also interesting, I mentioned here, is that when we do our asanas, we'd have asanas that stimulate the parasympathetic system, especially like forward bends. And so when you do Paschimottanasana or you do mudra. So all the poses where you actually bend forwards, you actually activate your parasympathetic nerve system. Then you have the chest opening poses, and there you activate the um, the sympathetic nerve system. And so we have poses that balance. Actually, one promotes the parasympathetic, the other promotes the sympathetic. Now, actually, the trance, when our minds go into trance, we are not in parasympathetic, which is mostly associated with calmness and balance. We also have this sympathetic nerve system. So when parasympathetic and the sympathetic nerve system actually are synchronized, we get this trance-like state in our minds. And so when we look at our daily rhythm, the red here is the sympathetic. So in the afternoon, around 2 to 6, that is suitable for sympathetic activity. Morning, 6 to 10, again, suitable for sympathetic nerve system activity. Evening, around 8 to 10 is blue, and midnight, 2 to 4, the parasympathetic is more active. Now you see in the day there are 4 times where the green, where sympathetic and parasympathetic are balanced. Okay, so these are suitable times naturally for us to do our meditation. It's natural to go more easily into this trance-like experience that we develop in meditation. And so especially from 4 to 6 in the morning, mid-noon, 6 to 8 in the evening, and then midnight. And midnight, there's a long stretch. So again, the sympathetic parasympathetic nerve system become balanced through our practice of brahmacharya. So if somebody can really commit to the full observance of brahmacharya, that transformation with time will guide that person, can guide this person actually to realization. The fifth principle of Yama is aparigraha. Aparigraha actually usually is translated as non-possessiveness. Means a simple life, and we would translate a simple life, or not collecting material excessively, not collecting excessively material things. It is actually more a foundational quality. So it's more you free yourself from being obsessed with the latest smartphone or the latest car model or the latest fashion. If you don't spend time on these things, you get more time to do actually what matters in life. It increases willpower, it lowers stress levels, and it gives you a longer and healthier life. And so as such, this kind of, you can say, voluntary poverty of this simple living is a foundational practice. And I didn't see many researches on the biopsychological effects of this practice. But keep in mind, it's the foundational practice for all the others. So if you are obsessed with the latest in sports or in politics or in new inventions, or if you are too much involved with all these things, it actually sucks up your energy, sucks away your energy for developing ahimsa or satya or asteya or brahmacharya. So actually, I could continue with all these other values. And actually, with niyama, we have actually many beautiful things to share. Shocha. Shocha actually we translate as cleanliness, but it's internal and external. And so internal cleanliness actually is probably the most difficult part. And by extension, internal cleanliness would include forgiveness. So not keep holding onto grudges or not holding onto, all kinds of, long time ago, whoever did what, and keeping all these things in the mind is going to burden ourselves. And actually, it increases anxiety. It increases amygdala activity. And so letting go and forgiving is actually, again, a biopsychological practice that helps us keep stronger concentration. Santosha in niyama. And santosha usually is translated as contentment or thankfulness. And so actually thankfulness would be included, in my opinion. Thankfulness, there's a lot of research on. So there's dopamine, serotonin. It regulates the sympathetic nervous system. And of course, there is a much more complex brain activity behind it. But the practice of thankfulness is even so powerful that it can reduce pain and can create better sleep. And so people who practice thankfulness in their lives, they have better sleep. And if you keep in mind that if you are not a content person, your anxiety goes up. And then, of course, your sleep will suffer. Now, we are discussing these things because we are interested in developing better practice of meditation. People who don't worry about meditation, just mental health, they are actually also promoting these practices like contentment or forgiveness or simple living. And it's so interesting that even for elderly people, for whom mental health is becoming a serious problem, that they are using thankfulness therapy for forgiveness therapy. And so these practices are not just good for yogis, they are good for mental health. And so I can continue. We still have tapasya. Actually, there's much more to say. We have swadhyaya and we have ishvara pranidhana. I would like to mention a few more things about santosha. Contentment. Okay, so contentment means that you are more accepting of your situation. But there is also social injustice. So if you have this problem of being discriminated against or treated unfairly, so how do you practice santosha? At the same time, you want to deal with this injustice. Santosha doesn't mean that you accept injustice. And so if there is injustice, you have to manage your awareness from a higher perspective, a higher layer of santosha. Okay, I'm happy. I'm a happy person, but I also can change what is happening around me. What is happening with me, or I can happening to others. I can fight, but I can maintain my santosha, my content. And here I like to tell a simple story, and this story touches me very much. There was a king, and he was a king for a city. And he was a good man and respected. Now, one day there was a young girl, very, very young, and she gave birth to a child. And all the people asked that girl, whose father, who is this child's father? And the girl said, king. So the people went to the king and said, this is your child. And the king didn't say a word. And the people, they went out of the palace and they started gossiping and making rumors and stories. And they were blaming the king. But then some were thinking, how is it possible? This king is 24 hours surrounded by his people. And this girl is a village girl. She's from the farm. How does this happen? They went back to the girl and they said, girl, who is the real father of this child? And she said, sorry, it's not the king, it's another person. And then these people went to the king and they said, king, this girl says you are not the father of this child. But we wonder, why did you accept the responsibility for that you are the one who is the father of this child? And the king said, and I felt in this story, you can feel that he is Santosha. He said, I didn't refute what the girl said because I was more concerned with the welfare of this child than that you should respect me. So he didn't say, no, I'm not a father of this. And everybody would have accepted this girl is a liar. He said, I'm more concerned with the welfare of this child than that I am concerned whether you respect me or not. So his level of contentment is not dependent on the respect he gets or not. His contentment is he has to respond to higher values, not what people talk about him. And so Santosha, again, is such a deep practice that actually takes you to the core of our being. And of course, there are cultural differences. So in one culture, maybe people look at one value and in another culture, they look at the same value and they have different attitudes. And so if you take a value but for example, forgiveness, and maybe in the USA, where there is more sense of independence and more forthrightness and more about individual power, and they would say, I'm not going to forgive, I'm going to fight this. And then, for example, in a Japanese society, which is more submissive and humility is praised, maybe forgiveness the situation will not call for forgiveness. And so there are different ways of dealing with the values. But finally, I think it doesn't matter where you are. If you go deeper into the values of Jama and Niyama, you are bound to come to a kind of spiritual realization. And the observance of these values was practiced traditionally. And so the same way as our guru, our master, would write down with his own handwriting all the 5 jamas and the 5 niyamas for his initiates. This was the tradition. And many gurus, they would not accept a disciple very easily. They would maybe observe a disciple for 10 years to see his behavior or her behavior. And after 10 years, if a person passed the test, then maybe they would teach meditation. So there's a story of the king of Bokhara. I think it's very illustrative. He was a king and he wanted to find the spiritual truth. So he handed over his kingship to somebody and he went to the best guru of his day, which was Kabir. Kabir was a weaver. So he was just simple man living in a simple house with his wife. So the king of Bokhara went to Kabir and says, please accept me as your disciple. And Kabir said, king, here we are weavers. We have a simple life. We have nothing, no comforts, nothing for such a king. And, and the king said, I've not come for comfort. I've come for spiritual realization. I will do anything you say. And Kabir was trying to refuse him, but finally he said, okay, you stay. But we only have one work here, is to sweep the floors. And the king said, I will do that. And the king was every day sweeping the floor and eating the food with Kabir and his wife and living a simple life. And for many years, this went on. Now his wife said, hey, Kabir, this king has been with us for all these years, and still you haven't taught him. And Kabir said, he's not ready. He says, how come he's not ready? He does anything you say, tell him to do. And so Kabir said, okay, wife, take the garbage bin, go to the second floor, there's the window. When the king comes out of the first floor door, throw the trash on his head and see his reaction. And so the wife was waiting second floor with the dustbin, and the king came out and she threw the whole bin on his head. And the king said, if this was in the palace, it wouldn't happen like this. And the wife went back to Kabir and told him his reaction. And he said, I told you, he's not ready. Again, a few years passed. And again, the wife said, hey, Kabir, why don't you teach this poor king something? And he said, he's not ready. So the story, to cut it short because of time, he said, wife, go take the dustbin, go to the second floor and do it again. And the second time, the king said, and the wife went back to Kabir and said, Kabir said, you see, he has improved a bit, but he's still not ready. And again, after some years, the wife came back to Kabir. The whole drama happened again. She took the dustbin and waited. And the third time, they threw the dustbin, all the dust on his head, the king's head, and the king says, it's all love, it's all. I'm so thankful. It is the greatest gift in my life. I can learn the spiritual truth. And the wife went back to Kabir and she said, okay, tell him to take a bath. I will teach him today. And so he gave him initiation, and in the first time he got samadhi. So training ourselves in jhana niyama is a powerful practice, something that we often neglect. And whether we can reach the level of practice of our Buddhist friends, I think we can. With a concentrated mind and a deep sense of presence in everything we do, with these two powerful things together, we can bring wholeness. Now, I have two suggestions. And Baba, what I heard in the 1970s, 80s, encouraged the practice of self-analysis. Means every evening we review our behavior and our attitude from that day. And those days, people were very strict on 16 points, and that was used as a self-analysis program. I have another suggestion, and maybe our lives have changed. I want to suggest to link our practices of presence to our chakras. And so, in the first chakra, we have the vrittis, kama, artha, dharma, moksha. Kama means a physical desire. And so we have this many people have this overriding urge for physical security. So the practice I match here is aparigraha, simple living. So in the evening, when we sit before we sleep, close your eyes, close your neck, close your eyes, connect to your Muladhara chakra and review. Did I observe properly certain detachment of material things? Did I let go my attachment to material comfort in a satisfying way? Now, the second chakra, where the vrittis are more anxiety driven, or they are depression, or there is overindulgence or lack of confidence, or there is paranoia or cruelty. And these vrittis, the first thing that came to my mind is to link santoshi, contentment. Because the second chakra is always feeling the orphan complex, abandoned, not loved enough, not supported. So one way to balance that in my mind was santosha. Am I thankful? Swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means to study, to develop a deeper insight in our identity. And so the second chakra is very small, eye oriented. So the practice here is to come out of this small, limited identity and see the spiritual goal. As the third chakra, which is more connected with our power and independence, the fire emotions. I put here asteya, means non-greediness, not stealing, and not being influenced by greed in any way. I also added here tapasya, helping others. So use your actional ability, your actional force as to benefit others. The heart chakra, I put ahimsa, non-violence, means not hurting other people, and satya. Satya is truthfulness. Am I honest? Am I authentic? Am I true to my own nature? The heart chakra, which is more connected to cosmic forces, brahmacharya. So do I see the cosmic planning in my life? Do I stay connected to that? And then shocha I put for the agya chakra. So do I maintain my own purity? And so do I, get absorb negative information or negative influences, or do I protect myself? And Ishvara Pranidhan is for the crown chakra. And so it becomes a kind of, I don't want to call it meditation, it's a contemplation where we integrate our values into the chakra journey to liberation. This is one practice. Of course, we have other ways to work with our jhana and yama. And one other I felt is very powerful is to, before we start our mantra meditation, after we do kirtan, and we close our eyes and we give ourselves very strong intention. Today I bring all my compassion. Today I bring all my honesty, my satya. I bring all my selflessness. I bring my love for the supreme. I bring my simple, basic self. I bring this to my practice. So if we bring a stronger presence to our technique, the technique's power will increase. And so this too, because sometimes we are going through the motion. We are not really bringing full presence to our meditation. And another technique, of course, is like what is originally the plan probably for Jama and Niyama, is in life, very strictly observe our practice. So this Jama Niyama, and what I'm share with you today is to show that there is a biopsychological effect, and why the masters have always emphasized first to Jama Niyama, then initiation. It is because it changes our body's chemistry and it prepares us for fruitful sadhana to build up the presence and then concentrate. Baba said we first initiate and then we slowly train them to go into deeper into Jamana. So in Ananda Marga system, we of course we push people for Jama Niyama, but it's not, it's not, we're not going to wait 10 years for somebody to get initiation. So this is what I wanted to share with you. And there are many more things actually to talk about it. But I'm very thankful for this opportunity. And I hope you got some inspiration for your own practices and bring the power of Jama Niyama to your own life. And this will benefit you, not just as a moral behavior, but as a biopsychological transformation that makes your sadhana more good.
Thank you so much, Rudra Mohan, for your stories and your sharing your wisdom with us. We have time for just one or two questions. If anybody has any questions you'd like to ask, Rudra Mohan.
I could ask, I don't know how to put my hand up here. Namaskar. My internet connection went down just on the time that we are talking about. I use my words for good. I use good words. And then this is the doubt that I have, because sometimes we even scold people that are doing the wrong thing, and we use bad words like Baba himself was using for the acharyas when he wants to scold. And this is Satya also. So I try to translate it for the children. I use my words for good. And when you are explaining about that, my internet connection just fell.
Yeah, I think that's a very good observation. I think it's either way, it's all very nice. Yeah, thank you, Didi.
So when you say I use my words for good, it doesn't go against, no, I use good words. It doesn't go against that we should only talk sweetly, we should not talk harshly. Doesn't give that impression.
You know, of course, I think there's a lot of scope. So you, like here in Asia, people tell these white lies, and it doesn't violate satya. But for me as a foreigner to come to Asia and then see the culture of using words for the good, but I would say from in my background that we don't accept that. But you learn it. So I think we have to keep in mind that Sanskrit is a philosophical language, and so one term like satya can be expanded in many different directions, according to me. Okay, and so I think when in my curriculum is use words for the good. I think it's a beautiful approach. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Namaskar.
Well, again, we'll go on to our second speaker. Thank you again, Rudra Mohan.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Namaskar. Very nice.
Thank you.
So Didi Ananda Sanjana is our second speaker of our program today. She has been teaching meditation and yoga for around 20 years. She holds a bachelor's in health science and complementary medicine from the University of New South Wales, Australia. Didi is Yoga Alliance certified and conducts yoga teacher training online and in person. Ananda Sanjana has facilitated yoga detox retreats and spiritual training for women in Hong Kong, Moscow, and Africa. She is an instructor in the Neo-Humanist College of Asheville, where she will be presenting an 8-week course on Koshiki. Watch for it, and other yoga practices in January. Please watch for this. So you may put questions for her in the chat, which we'll try to get to at the end of her presentation. Here we go with the role of yoga for our nerves and hormones. Let's listen to what Didi has to share with us.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for the introduction, and it's an honor to be here to have a chance to share with you what little I know about this practice. I think in this conference, the topic is on yoga, and the role of yoga is not just the asanas or movements that I'm going to talk about. That's where I'm going to focus on today. But yoga is, like you can see, you've seen Rudra Mohan Dada, he spoke about Jama Niyama ethics, which is one of the basic principles, the base, foundation of yoga, amongst other things. Breathing practices, pranayama, diet, service, chanting, mantras, and so forth, fasting and all that. So there are a variety, a varied range of a lifestyle, actually, more than anything that we adapt to in order to bring balance in our life and optimize our existence here as a human being. So without further ado, I'm going to just go through what I have prepared. I hope I can cover everything, but I doubt it, so I may cut off some of these things. Okay. Like I was saying, just now, yoga is a lifestyle, right? It's not just the asanas that I'm going to share about for this session. And of course, I think one of the things I've listed down here, in addition to what I've said, is also service, which will expand our being to understand our existence, to understand our action, to understand the principles in our life. Yeah, basically, in the yoga, you probably is familiar with the 8 limbs of yoga. So, in this context of what I'm going to present, also I'm going to cover how these 8 limbs of yoga actually, connects with our body, our mind, our biopsychology, that brings this homeostasis to our system. And what do we mean by that homeostasis? Before that, I want to just make reference also with the resources I got here. Generally, I've been fortunate to know a few people who are really, the pioneers in the kind of asanas that we do. So I have made the references below, Koveri Weber of Subtle Yoga, and you will notice also other references that I will make to some of the resources that it comes from. Here in this on this slide, what I have highlighted is just a framework of how yoga is considered generally. It's for the cardiovascular fitness, and it's more of a form of exercise. It gives you the strength, flexibility, stamina. Although, of course, the asanas that we do give us this aspect. That's we can't deny that. But generally, what we want to highlight this time is how the asanas, the movements that we do, the breathing practices that we do, the awareness, the conscious movement. The goal is to build this resilience in our nervous system. It's more of an inner science, and the tendency to nurture our qualities, as in and the physiological balance and our mental health, which is very much needed in the society these days, and that's one of the elements I think that's missing in the fitness or hatha yoga that we may be familiar with, or may mostly quite commonly known as. Well, here you can see just a few of the benefits of asanas. Enhances muscular strength, enhances flexibility for sure, promote and improve respiratory and cardiovascular function. It does promote recovery from treatment of addiction, which is a very common, or rather up and coming, or increasingly needed area where this can be applied, yoga can be applied very much as a therapeutic aspect of asanas. Obviously, the topics on nerves and hormones, so the link between our emotions and all that, it's very clear in the benefits of asanas. Reduces stress, anxiety, depression, and a lot of chronic pain. Improves sleep, enhances sense of well-being and quality of life. This was taken from Catherine Woodyard, who made a study on therapeutic yoga and the benefits of therapeutic yoga, and that brings in yoga that can bring the quality of life. I just want to compare a little bit on the major body systems. There's several, I think 10, 11 to 12 body systems that I've listed in here on the screen. But I'm talking only about two of them. You find that the two systems of the nervous system and endocrine system are actually two of the main body systems that's very useful to. Can you hear me? I hope you can. I forgot about my volume.
Sound is great.
Okay. Two body systems that work together very closely, that support each other, and it's very helpful for the other bodies, the major body systems. So there are several, but I don't have time to do all that. But they are very helpful for the other systems. In fact, it's the practice of asanas not only benefits the nervous system and hormone system, but it brings the system into homeostasis, which simply means a state of what? A state of balance among all the body systems needed for the body to survive and to function correctly. And generally, disease comes from is caused by when the body is not in balance, when everything is not how we should be working. Mainly, what are the common issues of imbalances? It could be your temperature. If you have a fever, it is out of balance. If you're diabetic, it's your glucose level, for example, or insulin resistance condition, or if you are or toxins in the system or in the blood, your blood pressure, for example, the irregular blood pressures we face in a disease condition, and so forth. So the common the common areas of our biology, physiology. But that is not only the only thing. It also affects our mental and spiritual aspect of being. So, although it's physiological, the mental and the spiritual aspect is very much affected as well. Okay, and we'll go to the next one. I'm going to go through a few. Let me look at the time before it's too late. Okay. Just basically an idea of what the nervous system is and what is in the nervous system. Includes the brain, the spinal cord. The brain is the continuity of the spinal cord. It's a very complex network. What does the system do? It sends messages back to and forth, the brain and the body, and vice versa. And the brain is what controls the body's functions. And go to the next one. I'm going to make it skip some of these things, maybe.
Hey, Nana Sanjana.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We just had one question, if it's possible to just turn up the volume slightly. There are some students that are not able to hear as good as others, and you might be able to help with that. Thank you.
I'll do that. I didn't look at my volume just now. Thank you. Okay. The nervous system is divided into two parts, mainly the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Earlier on, Rudra Mohan also mentioned something about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system and the asanas related to it and all that. It's interesting. I'm really happy to hear that. Because the ethics, Jama Niyama, has a lot of effects on our nervous system for sure. And now what is in this, I'm not going to go through in detail the system. I don't think you need to know. Generally, nervous system consists of the peripheral nervous system, the central nervous system. In the peripheral nervous system, you have the autonomic nervous system, which is one of the areas that is of concern in asanas. It really affects the autonomic nervous system because it's automatic, it's not conscious. So the autonomic nervous system has two parts, in fact three, the sympathetic and parasympathetic, which is the most common one. And the third one is the ancestral, which is actually related to mostly the digestive system, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. Mostly related to digestion and all that. Okay, and then the central nervous system we have, and then from the peripheral nervous system we have also not only the autonomic nervous system, the somatic and the visceral. Mainly the two autonomic nervous system, the somatic, the common ones. Visceral is also there, but it's rarely mentioned mostly. And then there you go. Hope you can see me on the right side of the screen. You can see the conditions of your nervous system when if it's over, if it's stimulated, the sympathetic nervous system would be activated. That's where your affects your cortisol level, stress level, and so forth. Even and the rest of the organs of the body will also be affected. And let's go to the next one. That's mostly the same. The two in the asanas today, in the talk today, I'm gonna also share with you, the asanas and the movements of the breathing techniques that can affect very much the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. They generally have opposite effects, but not necessarily. It doesn't necessarily mean that well, I'll explain later about, you know, a condition. For example, if you are anxious, for example, that doesn't mean you are always doing the calming asanas, which will be necessary, but at the same time, you might also have to have a combination in order to balance the state of the person. Likewise, if you are depressed, that doesn't mean that you need to always do a hyper stimulating asanas only. You may need to combine it with calming asanas. So it all depends individually as well, to see the state of the extent of the anxiety or the depression. Next, just a little bit of the endocrine system. As you can see here, the endocrine system are very connected to our, well, generally the main chakras of body are located where the main glands of the system are located, and when we do asanas, we can see why some of the poses are done in such a way to squeeze or to release the areas where the main glands are located. Okay, here the next, my slide will not be running in order, but anyhow, okay. Like I said earlier on, mainly yoga practice is traditionally to bring about homeostasis or balance the mind and the entire system. And that's, having said that, but so that, you know, we can do spiritual practice. Rija Mohan also mentioned that the purpose is to do sadhana. Sadhana is the effort to do anything. The effort to do spiritual practice is not just in asanas, obviously, and to go into a deeper understanding of your own nature, what you are, where you come from, our existence in this world, our role in this world. The next part is about using, you know, yoga as an integrated system to process this, and I'm going to cover only part of it, not the meditation and the ethics, which has been covered. So, okay. Now, the next is just a framework of an idea of what the brain is you know, make of. Generally, in the brain, you have different areas. I'm not going to go into details in that, but nevertheless, we need to integrate this system. The reptilian part of our brain, for example, is there. It's like regulating the crocodile, for example. This is the area of the brain where you, to maintain homeostasis, it manages the breathing part, your heart rate, your digestion, metabolism, temperature. It's unconscious movement. It is the reptilian part of the brain is about maintaining, again, homeostasis, interacting with the nervous system, and interacting with the nervous system to maintain homeostasis. And then there is the mammal part of the brain, is like the cat kind, the limbic part of the brain, which that area where, you know, you get you want to cuddle into something, or you get angry about little things, emotional and all that. So that part where, you know, the attachment and kind of reaction of the brain. And then you have the monkeys. It's more primate. It's about where you're interacting more. You're looking for things. You know. To know about the system, mainly your cognitive capacity, your interaction with the world, in terms of what you need, what they need. But then there are lot of studies that is changing also. You know, so it's there are a lot of discoveries in these areas that is always changing. And then there's one more part. There is that how you integrate that Mr. Spock kind of area of the brain. Mainly, that is the area where logical aspect, rational aspect, and then it's also not sociable. A little bit of executive function is there, less of interactional function part of the brain. Okay, but somehow we have that. It is not really a committee. It's not really divided clearly, but mainly these are the areas that we need to integrate in the brain that makes up the brain. Now, I'm going to go through a few areas of. Oh, this is not going down. Okay, but before that, I'm going to start with the hindbrain. Oops. Okay, I'm going up. Let me go to this one first. And quickly go through about, I'm looking at the time. Okay, yes, I'm going to go quickly with this. The hindbrain, the midbrain, and the forebrain. And a little bit of the functions and how do we support the area, this part of the brain. But that doesn't mean that the brain works, is divided. Generally, don't take it seriously, meaning you do the brain function as holistically. It's not just only this part of the brain does this and the rest are completely ignored. There is some overlapping and overlapping of the function. So that's what we need to consider when we are listening to this. The hindbrain, generally what it does, I'm going to go through it very quickly. It controls functions like breathing, heart rate, movement. It's all written there. Digestion, all the autonomic functions, regulating the high blood pressure, your breathing, your heart rate. Also, important receiving sensory input like motor control, balance, posture, motor learning, coordination. You can see, that is the area. And our yoga practice can help to optimize the function of this, to improve our balance, coordination, muscular strength, cardiovascular function, promote addiction recovery. Now, what is important is for you to know what are the poses that support this. Balancing poses, which we're going to do today, they are very good for this part of the brain. Inversions, even inversions as simple as the bridge pose, downward dog, and the opposite arms and legs poses like the cobra, the tabletop, and the twist. And the twist and the warrior, they are actually very helpful for this part of the brain. Digestive support such as the twist and the forward bends are helpful. And the structural breath in asanas, which I'm going to show you what it is. And and breathing practices is very. So I'm going to sidetrack a little bit and show you this.
Hi, I'm Christine Weber from Subtle Yoga. Today, I'd like to show you a way of breathing that's going to be really supportive for you in your asana practice. And, belly breathing is something that we hear about a lot in the yoga world, and it's a really good way to breathe when you're meditating or for some pranayama practices. But for asanas, we want to do what we can to protect the spine. And in order to protect the spine, it's actually more useful to use a breath that is sometimes called structural breathing. So it's a way of breathing that's going to be really useful for you when you practice asanas. So why don't you practice it with me now from seated. So you can sit up like I'm sitting, or if you like, sit on a bolster or a folded blanket. And what we're going to do is bring our hands to the lower ribs so you can get a sense of how the lower ribs move when you're inhaling. So with the hands here, as you inhale, what you want to feel with your hands is that the breath moves out. It moves you out in a kind of almost 360-degree way. And if you can think about your whole rib cage like a hot air balloon that lifts up on your inhale. It's going to be a really supportive way of breathing. So let's try it again. So exhale completely, and then you can breathe in with me and lift the ribs up. And then exhale. So I'm using a little bit of engaging in the back of my throat called the ujjayi breath as I'm doing the exhale. It's also useful on the inhale, but if you don't have that yet, just try and get it on the exhale. It's like you're kind of fogging a mirror, but you do it through your nose, not through your mouth. Okay, so let's try it again. So we're going to breathe in, lift the ribs up off the hips, and then exhale. So that's the first part of the breath, the inhale part of the breath. The second part of the breath, your exhale, is equally important, perhaps even more so depending on which asanas that you're doing. So the exhale, we want to think about starting under the navel and feeling the abdominal muscles engage. And depending on which poses you're doing, you engage the muscles more or less. Just for seated here, for our purposes, I want you to engage maybe about 25% of your abdominal strength, okay? And then after engaging the lower abdomen, then you can move the upper abdomen in a little bit and let that be kind of a tone or a firmness in the abdomen. So first do your inhale, lift up the hot air balloon. And then on the exhale, lower abdomen. And then the navel to the solar plexus part of the abdomen. And maintain some of that tone and then breathe in again. So the ribs lift up off of the hips. And you'll notice that your belly starts to relax a little bit here. That's fine. Re-engage on the exhale. Pubic bone to navel, navel to solar plexus, right, as you exhale. Keep a little tone in your abdomen. Breathe in, let the ribs lift up again. And on the exhale, pubic bone to navel, navel to solar plexus. You'll feel the chest just gently relaxing as well. So that basic form of breathing, the inhale, the ribs lift up out of the hips, the exhale, the abdomen engages, is going to be really helpful for you in your asana practice. So let's try it. We'll do two poses. Let's try it in two poses. The first one is called Chakravakasana, or sun.
Yeah, that's, I think, I'm going to stop there. To give you an idea about breathing, actually structured breathing or breathing properly is one of the most important things to do during asanas. And it's very, very helpful to know how to breathe effectively in order to optimize from the asanas that you're doing, because breath moves the spine, moves the limbs, and that's one of the cues that we ought to we find that it's very therapeutic. In fact, you can see Kaveri that she specializes in addiction. I think treatment for conditions of addictive recovery and all that, and they have it has a lot of effects that simply by not only just simply doing the asanas mindlessly, but with proper breathing technique, we are able to really optimize these asanas. Okay, I'm going to go to the next two parts of the brain, the midbrain, just a little bit of that. From here you can see the areas, the function of the midbrain. Generally, it is to improve coordination, reduce stress, promote addiction recovery. It helps to optimize structures that help to bring the unconsciousness into consciousness. So it's a connection between the forebrain and the hindbrain. What are the movements that is suitable for supporting this midbrain? To encourage the attitude of curiosity, to focus on your practices, move slowly with awareness. This kind of cues and awareness is absolutely helpful. Listening to the sound of your breath when as you practice. Notice the sensations of the body. Notice what motivates you to practice. And notice how your body feels. How you feel rewarded and supported by your practice. So generally, most of us would do asanas quickly, you know, and finish up the asanas, and you know. But these movements have a lot of effects. It makes a lot of changes, and it supports the functions of your cognitive functions tremendously. The next one, the forebrain, they just the main function of this forebrain is the executive function, controlling behavior, memory, reasoning, working memory. Okay, and what helps to think, to reflect, to be aware. This is part of the brain. Now, I want to see what are the supporting movements of this part, which I didn't write here on the screen. Sorry. It's mostly to give cues to focus attention on movement, on the movement as you move. I'm going to show a video later on. As you move, you are aware of your movement, of your breath, the movement of your limbs, your arms, and all. And to do both at the same time as you, I'm going to show you a video on that and how it's done. And move with the breath. Move, the breath guides the movement. Focus on, again, sensations, the interpretation of them, the feelings, where the attention is drawn, and then draw your attention to places where you typically don't pay attention to. For example, your back. For example, if you're doing something else, so you may focus on something else usually, but draw your attention to somewhere else and notice the sensations, notice the differences. This is a little bit of the endocrine system, which I'm not going to go through because I think it's not giving you a science class. But generally, what I want to highlight is the relationship between the nerves and hormones are so close. They regulate the bodily functions very much through the autonomic nervous system, through sympathetic parasympathetic nervous systems, along with the endocrine system. They regulate the bodily systems together. And one of the things, the main link is the hypothalamus. Again, I don't think I have time to go through all this. Which is the HPA axis, the hypothalamus, pituitary, and the adrenal glands. So that if that balance is dysfunctioning, you can see a lot of dysfunction in the system. Everything goes imbalance in your system. So that's the main link to that. And that's why our spiritual practices like focusing, meditation, they are so much helpful, very helpful doing for our wellness and homeostasis balance in the body. The asanas can support that by giving the body a conducive environment to do our spiritual practice, as in meditation, for example. Okay, I'm going to come down to that. Now, one of the areas that is very common in yoga asanas, is the vagus nerve. You notice when we do massage, when we do our half bath, I'm not sure if all of you know what's half bath, when you splash water to the face and so forth. It triggers the nervous, the vagus nerve, which is the connection between the brain and endocrine, the brain and the gut. Most asanas also, if you notice, are very helpful for the digestive system. It's one of the areas one of the benefits in doing asanas. It benefits mostly our digestive system. And so yes, the nervous system, if the vagus nerve and the tone of the vagus nerve is very important, because it affects the secretion of the hormones required for digestion of food. A little bit of the gut-brain axis, which is, okay, I've got 5 minutes, about the microbiome in the system. which is so important because it determines your health, your wellness. I'm going to skip this. Basically, there's a lot of connection now between your gut, brain, and microbiome. And yoga asanas are surely very helpful in maintaining the balance in the system. Not only the asanas and the practices, but also the diet that it may be necessary in order to maintain that homeostasis. I'm going to go through you quickly here. The yoga for gut brain exists. The forward bends, the backward bends, yes, the twist poses. There's some mudras that are very useful. Some of you may know Agnisara mudra, which is like what call it? Kindling the fire in you. Agni is fire, so it's a very simple mudra where you just put your middle finger just next to the navel and you exhale and you compress the area for about 8 seconds or more, and then do it a few times. That can be very helpful. Uksepa mudra is one very good practice that we ought to do in order to improve our digestive and bowel movement on a regular basis. Udayana mudra, of course. And one of the asanas is Mayurasana. There are more than these poses, of course, but just to give you an idea what you can do for this problem. Now, here's just a quotation from Hatha Yoga Pradipika about this pose called Ukata Pachimatasana, and it's quite interesting to read this. So realizing the efficient or the benefits, the effects of this asana is so powerful. It's one of the best among asanas, and by this asana, pranic currents rise through the sushumna. The digestive fire increases, the abdomen becomes flat, and the practitioner becomes free from diseases. Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Now, there are many different forms of asanas. I'm going to see if I have time to go through this more thoroughly. In this asana, there's a form of exhalation. So it's coming, and you exhale, you suspend that pause, that kumbhaka for a while. That form of exhalation is a calming effect. It sort of calms the imbalances in the belly area, in the Manipura chakra. It's repetitive, and it's focused and active. Now, I will share with you some of the things that what changes the brain. That is further down. I put it a bit late. Now, before that, a word about breath and movement and nerves. They are absolutely very important to know, to be able to, I showed you the video early on, about noticing your breath as you move into the pose, as you move into the pose, to notice your breath, to breathe slowly into the movement, to be aware of the movement, and mindfulness. And breathing or breath is a very important aspect in doing asanas. In some asanas, when we do repetitive movement, it's even more important. In some asanas, we are doing it just holding the pose with continuous breathing. They have different effects, obviously. In the passive movement where the breath is just normal, you may also feel the depthness of the asana, even without the movement of the breath, because of the stillness of the body that you're concentrating, you're focusing. I'll come to that a bit later. But in some poses, when it's repeating the asanas, doing it again and again will it's one of the ways to make changes in the brain. And that is, here I have something to show you, but it's very, there are a lot of scientific terms here. Basically, the changes is what? Awareness. Awareness of the movement, feeling, knowing, the sensing, focusing, and regulating this practice of being aware, and then that changes would cause the structural changes in the brain, and that would bring that changes that to bring that homeostasis in the system. This is what I want to bring to you, how asanas affect the brain. Repetition, meaning practice again and again. That's why we do it regularly, not just once a week or once a month, twice a day if possible, in order to maintain that effects of the asanas. Novelty means what? You can do the same asana but in a different way sometimes, and that is very helpful for the brain to change. We could do an asana when we do it in a different way. It doesn't mean that it will not affect the system, the body, in the same way. Your glands will not affect your glands in the same way. It will still have the same way, but you do it in a form of interesting way, so that the brain is continuously triggered by these changes. Passion, again, it's something that is with care and with interest on, why you're doing these asanas for. Does it give you any interest, curiosity? That will, bring the changes in the brain. The neuroplastic change, where it's known to be possible. And, and focus and awareness, which will come to that. Now, focus and awareness can be implemented by, of course, the slow movement of asanas, mindful asana practice as a critical element in neuroplasticity. Awareness, distinguish the asana practice from the fast asanas, knowing it. One of the most important areas is actually the pause. The pause is very important, as important as the pose itself. Most of the time, we skip our shavasana. We skip in order to get through our asanas very quickly, but that's the most important part of the asanas practice. Do not avoid that practice. Even you can stay for 10 seconds or 2 minutes or 10 minutes. That pause is a very vital part in order to assimilate all the movements and the poses that you have done, the breath that you have done, in order to optimize from the pose. So the 4 things: slow, mindful, awareness, pause, slowness of the movement. Here, just a write-up from quotation from Norman Dodge, who wrote the author of The Brain That Changes Itself. Slowness of movement is the key to awareness, and awareness is the key to learning. Slow movement leads to more subtle observation and map differentiation, so that more change is possible. Why does it matter, focus and awareness? Again, the state of being aware of the changes, the sensations in the body through asanas, makes you feel this the safety feeling in the body, knowing where you are, and they also help you access your feelings in line with your identity, your values, and you are able to understand what you can do about them, and where do you stand, where your values are, and also to avoid suppressing, to ignore the internal messages of our body, and which will always throw us into this sympathetic overdrive that causes stress and stimulate the cortisol of hormones in our system. And also when the body is in a state of tension, not relaxed, not you don't slow down enough. It depletes your energy, and that's why we're always exhausted and ill, because we need to preserve our energy. And that's why the yogis meditate 4 times a day, or do asanas regularly, and this is to maintain that state of that preserve the energy in you. I just recently I went for a test on my health, and then the test came as my cortisol level is not high. It's because I was busy with things and during one program, and then there was a doctor in one of the programs I did in detox, and I was sharing with him some things because I needed to have some advice, and he mentioned, "Oh, I'm surprised your cortisol level is not high." So, but I think the meditation helps to maintain our state of mind as well. Okay, I'm going to go through this. We already covered mostly. Just repeating it. Neuroplasticity and awareness is important to be holistic, meaning teach the practices at least sometimes. That means we don't just do one asanas or these asanas for forever. We change around our asanas, be creative, cover as many areas as possible, because that's really very challenging our mind to develop that change in us. Go slow, be mindful, be aware, so you can this is the key to changing your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors, to change that, to create a new lifestyle habits, to be able to adapt to doing your asanas, to do helpful asanas that will benefit you. Repeat yourself, encourage it daily. Of course, it's important daily, not just weekly. And keep it fresh. Do something different again. Every day can be very interesting. Cultivate passion and feel connected with your practice. There I've got the book by Daniel Siegel on the whole brain child, which some of these quotations come from. This is another, I forgot the lady who she is, Helen, she's a professor of psychiatry at the Institute for Neuroscience and Human Behavior at the University of California, Los Angeles. So here it says, in a way, both yoga and meditation and brain exercises that engage different parts of the brain based on components practice, breathing movement, postures, chanting, visualization, concentration, and can help brain, form new connections and recover from injuries, or as we call it, to stimulate neuroplasticity. I'm not going to go through this. You don't have much time because I'd like to have some questions from you. I think we covered that. I mentioned about the pause. I have a little bit on fascia because, but I'm not going to cover much of this. It's basically to tell you that it's something new, but it's really not new. It is there all the time. Why I brought this up about fascia is because it's actually a connective tissue that surrounds every part of the body, including your muscles, tendons, ligaments, tissues, organs, all the organs, nerves, joints, bones, everything. And usually when the fascia is healthy, it's flexible, it stretches you. When the fascia tightens up, it restricts your movement and causes health conditions. Nowadays, there's a lot of talk about the fascia and the role of fascia in the emotional state. And that's why I want you to have an idea that, yes, in some asanas, for example, in yin yoga, where it's passive movement, they stay in the movement for a long time without doing anything, or going to the edge of the pose, and then really not stressing, not tensing it, and you find that emotional effects rises in the person, and that is probably because fascia, emotions are stored in the fascia, and fascia is actually what we are made of. In fact, it stores our consciousness in it. So doing asanas can affect the fascia in many ways because it's a connective tissue. At the same time, it does affect our nerves because most of it are a bundle of nerves. I'm not going to go through this, and that's okay. I just want to go through a little bit of this so that it's very short.
Okay, please separate your feet.
And then this is
just a little wider than your shoulders.
Breath
and for this one, we'll take the right arm up.
We gently rush into the asanas,
and left hand's on the side of your leg. As you inhale, reach over to the left with your right hand a little bit. Let your heel pop up off the floor. And as you exhale, come back down, drawing the belly in. So as you inhale, reaching up and over. And on the exhale, floating back down. Engage your lower abdomen. Good, let's do it again.
So.
Good, last time. This time we're going to step. As you exhale, just place your heel down.
So this is...
Good, and on the inhale, reaching through your hand.
I'm going to stop there. This is an example of, awareness, movement, and all that. And when we do our asanas, it's really important to spend time to be aware of our movement and breath and what we're doing and feeling the sensation in the body. This is yoga building for attention. It's something like what I've shown.
We're going to extend the right foot towards the ceiling as the left foot goes up over your head onto the floor behind you.
Cross-lateral movement is so helpful for the midbrain, for the hemisphere.
And then on the next in-breath, right foot, left arm.
Building
and here again, visualize that there's a string connecting the opposite limbs, and you can smoothly move them together. So you see my foot is only
left leg, right
move,
arm.
My foot doesn't have to move. My lower leg doesn't have to move as much as my arms. My arms are going like 180
right leg,
degrees,
left
but
arm.
my legs are not.
So
that means my arm has to move a little bit faster than my foot.
I want to stop this. I'm not going to show this. No, I'm going to show this. Yeah, I'm not going to show any of this, but I want to show about Koshiki a little bit, because Koshiki involves our contralateral movements. It's a continuous effort of movement of the feet, which is always, is stepping, is crossing the sagittal plane, and at the same time we are moving our upper part of the body from right to left, forward and backward. So the continuous movement of the feet and the continuous movement of the upper body, it's so effective in building the cognitive functions. So there's several ways of doing it. Now, to summarize all, the brain changes, repeating, passion, arousal, novelty, focus, awareness, regularity in the asanas, keeping it fresh, the variation of asanas, and not only exercises, as a fitness, but you should do asanas also as a form of to build that resilience in you, to build the resilience in the nervous system, to complement each other. So both active and passive poses for asanas are actually equally important in trying to maintain the homeostasis in the system. This is what I mentioned earlier on, which is covered. Oh, this I'm not going to do.
Thank you so much, Dee Dee. Are there, I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions for her. Are there, this is about the Koshiki class that Dee Dee will be teaching. There's actually 3 of us teaching this course. It'll be available at the the Neo-Humanist College of Asheville in January. So, are there any questions for Dee Dee? So if you need a certificate of attendance from this conference, you can, I think my email and the email of AMAYE, info@amaye.org, you can request a certificate of attendance if you need that.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I'm Ranjita from Italy. I have a question from Dee Dee. because I'm also one yoga teacher and of asana and meditation, of course. And so I have also the doubt in my lesson if it's good to mix hatha yoga, asana, and biopsychology, asana like Ananda Marga in the same lesson, or it's better first one and then the later, or I don't know. One suggests. Thank you.
Well, I would suggest to separate them, especially if you are looking at to have the effects of on the nervous system, for example. But having said that, usually in a day you probably will be exercising something. Like if you're going to build strength, especially the older you are, you want to build strength of the bones, for example. I think today's lesson we are doing a lot of standing asanas, which is strength building. You might want to do that, and then you do the more of a slow movement asanas after that. Depending on your age group as well. And some of us we are not going to do a lot of this flexibility because we might need more strength building. Yes, if you're going to do a long period of depending how much time you have, you're not going to spend 3 hours doing asanas, so you're going to spend maybe 40 minutes or an hour perhaps, or even less, 40-30 minutes or something like that. Then you may want to just focus on something and do something else or at another time. But if you're preparing your body for the asanas, some of these warm-ups in strengthening the warming up body could be nice to do 10-15 minutes, and then you go and do the more introspective asanas.
Thank you so much. And I just another question. And about students that they are not completely vegetarian, could I propose Ananda Marga asana, perhaps without holding the breath? Sorry.
I usually, this is what I do usually, even a long time ago. I do not include this holding of the breath. I just do the asanas, not having to do that. But at the same time, in this class, usually the students will come prepared, not eating their onions and garlic and having a non-vegetarian meal usually, because after some time they understood that it's important for them on that day to avoid all these things, or at least the day before, so they don't it's suitable more, they become more flexible or something, so in their mind. So generally I do prepare the students not to be eating such non-vegetarian food when they come for the asanas, and they are generally they would do that because they know that they're looking forward for the class. At the same time, if they're not, then we do it at the form of movements instead of doing it as a form of asanas where you hold the breath and all that, like what you're doing. That would help them to get into the movements, and they realize that they can't do it so well because they have to have sentient food in order to do that. They might comply with you. Yeah. Yes, I do it as a form of movements instead. Yes.
Thank you so much. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Thank you, Didi.
Thank you.
So without too much ado, we will go on to our third presentation. Dada Krishna Sevananda has been a yoga monk and meditation teacher of Ananda Marga for 40 years. Although he has spent time in Asia, Australia, and the Middle East, he now resides at the Ananda Gauri's Yoga Ashram in Denmark. Ananda Gauri is a farm and learning center that functions as a base for spiritual retreats and community workshops. These might be on a variety of topics like health, alternative economy, permaculture, and spirituality. Dada has developed a holistic approach to youth mental health that integrates modern Western therapies with yoga, meditation, and positive engagement with the social and environmental experiences that challenge our world today. He will be doing a workshop on making the best use of mantra, chakra, and visualization in meditation. Let's put our hands together for Dada Krishna Sewananda.
Thank you very much for everybody for participating. Thank you to the organizers for inviting me, and thank you to our Guru Sri Sri Ananda Murti for the inspiration. So my topic is making the best use of mantra, chakra, and visualization, and I hope it will give you some inspiration in your meditation and maybe some ideas for those of you who are teachers. Yeah. So I'm going to divide it into 3 sections, basically. Starting with the chakra part, then going to visualization and ending up with mantra. I would like to have 5 minutes of question time after each section. Good. So before we get into the looking at the mantra and all the aspects of the meditation, it's very important to begin the meditation with the right atmosphere and outlook. And nothing helps more than remembering your Guru Mantra before you start. Baba, in a nice discourse, talked about the importance of doing namaskar. And some of you may want to do sastang pranam or pranam in some form. And making that connection with the divine. The divine is there, present. That's what we're doing the meditation for that connection. So just take a moment right at the beginning of the meditation to acknowledge that presence, to give your respect and make that connection. If it isn't already part of your Guru Mantra, remembering that everything is divine imagination. Whatever we experience through our mind. And everything around us is cosmic imagination. And when you remember that, it just helps you step out of a materialistic kind of hard surface, divided view and experience of the world, and it helps you step into a more subtle experience of reality. And that kind of stepping out of the hardness and remembering the subtle interconnectedness and the substance, switching from form to substance, is very helpful in all the following stages of meditation. And again, this may come to you in your Guru Mantra, but if not, you can add this thought, I am not the doer. And we want to make space, we want to get out of the way and make space for the presence, the divine presence, or for our own inner spiritual presence. And the first part of doing that is just stepping out of the way and taking that thought, I am not the doer, at the beginning of meditation helps to accomplish that. Okay, so let's work on the chakras. In particular, I will be talking about Ishta chakra here. So when we use the chakras in other parts of the meditation, and it's part coming to our Ishta chakra and going up through the chakras in our first lesson and other lessons is part of pratyahara, sense withdrawal. And I like this image of the pyramid. The bottom of the pyramid represents our engagement in the world and duality, And as we progressively withdraw ourselves through all the techniques that you know, we go up that pyramid and duality gradually reduces, and we end up at our Ishta chakra, which is non-dual. It is the only thing in the physical world which is non-dual. It has no back, front, up, down, and so forth. It's just a point. So the Ishta chakra completes this process of sense withdrawal. As we come up, I found it helpful to use this image or this idea of a person who is climbing a mountain and using these kind of pythons to hammer in. He or she is not thinking about what's below or even their body. They're just thinking about that target point, hammering it in, and then pulling themselves upwards. So as we do our asana shuddhi, then did I miss out one here? No. Then we should, all we have to worry about is just focusing on the next, either next joint or the next chakra. And that itself, as we focus there, that will pull us to that point. Baba talks very interestingly about why we pause at the chakras, and that this action of pausing and doing asana, or being still in that point, helps to control the element which is associated with that chakra. And if that element is calm and controlled, then our ability to get that microphone. Our ability to withdraw from the body is easier because all the elements of the body are calm and controlled. So that's why we pause at the chakras, and it's helpful to keep that idea in mind. I find it makes it more effective if you keep that idea and just remember that as you pause, what am I doing here? I am controlling the earth element, the water element, and so on. And then, of course, when we come to our Agya chakra, pausing there helps to control the mind. So it's a big part. For me, it has always been very helpful to understand why and what I'm trying to accomplish at each stage of the meditation. So then we come to Ishta chakra, and what I'm going to do is read a discourse of Baba, parts of it, that completely revolutionized my meditation. And it's never been the same since, and it's something that I always think about. It's called Abheda Jnana and Daishika Vyavadana Vilopa. Very Buddhist sounding name. Those who want to become one with Paramapurusha must be free from the bondages of time, space, and person. In the spiritual sphere, it is quite possible to remove all bondages. This material world is relative. One who desires to be established in the Absolute must go beyond the scope of relativity. But the question is, how to do that? While doing sadhana, the mind frequently runs after external things. It is very difficult to concentrate the mind, which is by nature restless, on a certain object or idea. Why is the mind fixed on a particular point in sadhana? Because that point is actually the link between the relative world and the Absolute. The point exists where the relative world ends and the Absolute begins. This point is representative of the cosmic entity. Once this point is controlled, the attainment of the highest state of spirituality becomes easy. To control this point means to be one with the Supreme Consciousness. Therefore, to come out from the sphere of the relative world, one must concentrate on this point. one will surely continue to suffer in the sorrows and miseries of the relative world until one's mind becomes one-pointed. So, think of the chakra point as a gate where the relative world ends and the absolute world begins. Understanding the role that your Ishta chakra plays is very helpful and important. That point is representative of the cosmic entity. So, what is your Ishta chakra point? It's not just some point that I'm concentrating on mechanically. It is representative of the cosmic entity. If you keep that awareness, it changes the meditation significantly. Sadhakas should withdraw their minds from the relative world and concentrate on a small point. This point is the connecting link between the unit mind and the macrocosmic mind. So we put a lot of emphasis on chakra and visualization, but you don't hear people talk that much about the importance of your Ishta chakra. And this really drives it home. To come out from the scope of the relative world, one must concentrate on this point. One will surely continue to suffer in the sorrows and miseries of the relative world until one's mind becomes one-pointed. So if you put a person in a noose and hang them up, imagine if they suddenly shrank to a point. The noose could not hold them. They would be free. So the point is a tool for freedom. Freedom from time, place, and person. One should keep this, one should have proper shraddha and respect for this point, because it is what can free you from the bondages of time, place, and person. My goodness. To control this point means to be one with the Supreme Consciousness. So in another discourse, Baba says, the hub of this circumrotarian universe is the hub of the individual also. And what is your hub? It is that point. If anything is going to be your hub, it is your Ishta chakra. Now, if by some means an individual can make his or her individual psycho-spiritual hub coincide with that circumrotarian spiritual hub, then that individual will feel oneness with every grain of dust, with every blade of grass. Right? So focusing on that point and thinking of in your mind, why am I focusing? I'm coinciding my nucleus with the divine nucleus. They're fundamentally one. My nucleus, the divine nucleus is the nucleus of everything, so it's my nucleus. Right? And if I can reach there and hold my attention, there I am, coincided, one with the Supreme Consciousness. So this isn't an Ananda Marga symbol, but I think it represents very well Shiva Shakyat Makam Brahma, right? So Brahma is the composite of Shiva, the witnessing entity, and Shakti, the binding or creative force, right? And we call the nucleus, so Brahma is the combination of Purushottama and his witnessed, his imagination. Okay, so the I represents the Purushottama, the witnessing aspect. So when you focus in your chakra, it's not just some inanimate point. It is the witnessing consciousness, aware, watching, witnessing. Think of it like that, and that will certainly bring some depth and, how can I say, magic into your meditation. So we suffer when we are not detached, when we are engaged with time, place, and person, and basically when we are in our small ego. And my experience has been that the more I can get this kind of sense of withdrawal to a point in meditation, and also I try to hold it with me outside of meditation also, I feel that I'm less vulnerable. I'm less of a target. Things don't hurt me so much because there's nothing to shoot at. So the more we can get that concentration in the point, the more we can experience that kind of a sense of invulnerability. To putting more emphasis on the chakra point, I find that it leads to stillness and leads to suspension of mind, probably more than any other part of my practice anyway. Everybody's different, but in my practice, I find that as I focus in my Ishta chakra, the mind becomes still and even stops thinking. And if you look at this picture here and focus in the moon and just hold your attention there, maybe you can even just from that get a feeling of how useful it is to suspend the mind. Apparently Bodhidharma, the Indian monk who brought Buddhism to China, his practice was just staring at a point on the wall. So here's a quote where Baba is talking about the 8 occult powers. Reducing one's sense of existence or mental arena to smallness with the help of the mental force born of spiritual practices, and thereby being able to enter within another entity and know everything about that entity is called anima siddhi. Anima means to become small. So it's part of our meditation, making ourselves small. And that means that as you develop more and more skill at doing that, it will just make you feel able to read the room because your ego isn't in the way and just fit in with not only, you don't consciously do this for that purpose. It's just a coincidental result of it. We do it so that we can, the thing that we want to really enter into is Paramapurusha. And you can't enter into Paramapurusha unless you are smaller and smaller and finally disappear into nothing. Then we can enter into Paramapurusha. Baba gives a beautiful image of the witnessing consciousness as being like a spotlight on a stage. It witnesses whatever's going on, whatever act of the play is happening, and when all the actors have gone home and there's no one there and it's just an empty stage, it witnesses that all also. So I found that image to be very inspiring, this idea of a kind of constant witnessing presence that witnesses activity and inactivity. And I kind of connect that with my chakra point also. I see it as that spotlight on the stage. Somehow I like the empty stage. It's a cleaner image, and that's what I'm trying to achieve in meditation. In another discourse, Baba says that if you could see deeply, or a person who has a strong mind, when there's a magic show, everyone else is seeing the magic show, but the person with the penetrating mind sees only one thing, and that is the magician standing on an empty stage with his eyes closed, concentrating, right? So Paramapurusha is that magician. And do you want to see the show, or do you want to join? Do you want to cut through and join the magician's party? Is the words Baba uses. So, yeah, that's a nice way. I think of this point as the kind of the magician, that tiny point which is using its imagination to create everything. So in summary, about the chakra point, it is a means of self-transcendence. And Baba gives this wonderful image of, if you won't be drenched by the divine shower as long as you have the umbrella of ego over your head. Close that umbrella and immediately you are in the presence of the divine. And of course, all the things that we do, kirtan, guru puja, and second lesson are part of this closing the umbrella, but so is concentrating in a point and doing the shuddhis. And I find that, in my mind, I relate the tip of the umbrella when it's closed as the chakra point. So I'm focused in that point, and that is kind of gradually closing that umbrella and allowing me to be drenched. Okay, so that's the end of that section. Would anyone like to ask a question? Okay, so we'll have 2 more question sessions. So if something comes to your mind, then let me know. So now we'll go on to the second part, which is visualization. Think of visualizing as a tool to expand your mind. So when we do the third shuddhi, chitta shuddhi, try to really make an effort to expand your mind as far as you possibly can. And I found that deliberately making an effort to, kind of explore this idea of hugeness and infinity and totality and to the edges of the universe and beyond. And we use that. You can use it well both in the first shuddhi and in the third shuddhi, in chitta shuddhi. So both of those, if you make an effort to expand, it will help you. You're, kind of breaking out of your narrow spaces, and it's enjoyable. It's blissful. Baba said that one of the 4 things that make us human and different from other creatures is the desire to expand. So work at that. Really put some effort into making it as big as you can. Right away, just by looking at this picture, you get this sense of how much, freedom and space and happiness there is when we can expand our consciousness. And that's just physical. Think of visualization as a way to shift your attention from the crude to the subtle. There's I heard it just somewhere, a mantra, Hari Hari, Vyoma, Vyoma. So what it represents is concentrating on God, and Vyoma is the ethereal factor, so the subtlest of the. So always keep your attention somehow towards the subtle. And when we do our shuddhis, we are shifting our attention to the subtle and creating, again, more space for our awareness. And when you learn how that feels, then apply that also in between meditations. So always try with your guru mantra and your other ideation, like remembering everything is mental, to see not the form, the outer, hard, limited, boxing form of things, but the subtle substance, the essence that everything is made of. So we have, our mind is full of so many objects, but think of your visualization as you're kind of, having a paintbrush whose color is the color of the divine, and you are just painting over all the differences and creating sameness everywhere, inside, outside, everywhere, past, present, and future. It's all one thing. Now, mind loses its equilibrium when there are differences. There's something that I want over there, so I lose my balance and I move towards it. There's something that I don't want over there. I lose my balance because I'm moving away from it. But if everything is me, everything is God, inside, outside, permanently, where am I going to go, and what am I going to run after, and what am I going to run away from? So mind reaches a state of equilibrium. So it's important to try to use your visualization to create that sameness. And I found this image of, using it like a paintbrush is helpful. And we'll come back to that when we talk about mantra. I read one amazing discourse where Baba said there's only one absolute entity, and anything absolute is God. And we say love, we say this or that, or as long as it's, we use different words, but none of them are really, kind of can sum everything up. So when I teach meditation to new people, because they find it hard to imagine something very subtle like love or whatever, I say, well, imagine absolute chocolate cake, inside, outside, everywhere, past, present, and future, filling up all available space right into the core of your being, right to the edges of the universe. There is total chocolate cake, nothing else. And I love seeing the big smiles that come on people's faces with their eyes closed as they imagine this. So, and then I encourage them, okay, now you've seen what we're talking about as far as creating oneness is concerned. Now see if you can extend that to something more subtle like love or light or God or spirit or presence or happiness. Right? Another food example. So often when we are imagining ourselves surrounded by consciousness, just out of habit, we imagine our bodies surrounded by consciousness, God. And what that means is that my body is surrounded by this blissful idea, but I forgot about what to do about my inner world. And my inner world is still full of all kinds of other things that I don't identify and connect with being divine. So I found it's helpful when you visualize this and you're trying to expand the mind, you need to expand in two directions at the same time. Imagine this ocean of consciousness not only expanding and becoming infinite in an outward direction, but expanding and becoming infinite as it moves towards the core of your being, towards your Ishta chakra, penetrating, becoming one, filling up all your inner space, not only the outer space. And then, so imagine that donut, right? The hole disappears in the middle and the outer circumference expands right off the screen, right off, and then you just have one thing everywhere. So I found that very helpful, both me personally and also for teaching new people to use that idea of the donut expanding both inwardly and outwardly. Another lovely image that Baba gives is the salt doll who woke up one morning and said, today I want to go and explore the sea. And what happened to him? He just got dissolved, right? And I found that that's a very helpful and important image, because we have to remember that Baba says you meditate on him and he meditates on you. And in fact, most of the action in meditation is coming from him. We make some effort, but the real changes are made by the divine nucleus, or by the divine consciousness. So he is absorbing us into himself. And I find this image of this kind of effervescent lozenge being dissolved and absorbed by the water very helpful. So try that in your meditation, to feel yourself like that, being dissolved and taken over. Our capacity to visualize will depend a lot on how well we do our sense withdrawal. So the divine is present all around us eternally and infinitely, but we can't experience it because our mind is filled up with other things. And if we can withdraw our mind from those things, then it's already there. It is the reality. We are just detaching from the unreality or the temporary realities. So thinking of it, and I sometimes explain it to my students like this, right? So there is this beautiful scene, and you just couldn't see it because your mind was, you've got like this box on your head, and you just need to take it off. And that's what the Shuddhis do. And the better you withdraw, the more you can withdraw your mind. As you go up in a building, every step you go up, you can see further, see wider. So the Shuddhis play that role Baba said if you do the shuddhis properly, you only have to repeat the mantra once and you will attain realization or samadhi. In a discourse called Mind Grows in Magnitude, I think, Baba talked about the importance of thinking in a systematic way. And he gave the example, if you're going to think of an elephant, start at the tail and gradually, systematically visualize right to every part of the elephant. Otherwise, there'll be some gaps and jumps, and the image won't be complete. And I wonder, I don't know if it's the case, but I wonder if he was hinting about sixth lesson. And as I thought about that and applied that in my sixth lesson about systematically, and there are some instructions in sixth lesson to visualize in a very systematic way. So keeping that in mind, I found it helped my sixth lesson visualization a lot. So part of what we do is about how and particular techniques and practice, but a lot of it is also what attitude do you bring, what spirit do you bring to your visualization. And thinking that when I visualize, and again I'm referring maybe to both first lesson and sixth lesson, but especially to sixth lesson, remember that as you visualize, that's a kind of service, right? Making an effort to visualize beautifully, to make your visualization as beautiful as possible as an act of service. Thinking like that adds a lot and helps the meditation. And Baba said that this spirit of service is the most important aspect of sadhana. And if you have that spirit, even the simplest form of meditation, you can reach the highest goal. And if you don't have that spirit, you can have every advanced technique of meditation under the sun, but you will not be successful. So keep that spirit of serving and that visualizing. Think of your visualization as an act of service. Okay, so are any questions at this point?
Dada Namaskar. I'm really appreciating your visual images, and I just wrote in the chat that I would love to see your chocolate cake picture again. I have a student who loves chocolate cake. It's very, very special.
Thank you. Yeah, I had one student who I gave this class. Actually, he wasn't a regular student. I just gave a workshop, a meditation workshop at some center. And I bumped into one of the participants a few days later, and he said, I spent the entire next day just thinking about absolute chocolate cake. I couldn't get it out of my mind. And it just, the whole idea made this, the concept more real for him. Any other questions?
There's a question here from Kalyana. Can you please give us the title of the discourse that you quoted earlier?
Okay, I've got a really big difference in between my volume and your volume. And when I turn the volume so I don't blow my eardrums out, I can't hear what you're saying. So say it again, please.
We would like to know the name of the discourse that you quoted earlier, the title of the discourse you quoted earlier, please.
I've quoted a few discourses. Which one are you referring to?
Namaskar, Dada. Can you
Oops,
just
we haven't
please
got the answer to
the discourses that you gave?
Okay. Yeah, I'm just having this. How can I overcome this problem of the?
If you can type.
Can you say that again? I just got a really big audio difference. And please. All right. Well, just for your information, I will. You're very welcome to contact me about. I think I'll share this presentation with everyone, and if you want to write to me and ask for the titles of the discourses, then I can do that.
Dada, she's written it into the chat, which discourse she's asking about.
Okay. How do I access the chat when I'm screen sharing? I can't, can I?
I see the words written, all the discourses, and then Mel Barton wrote the very first discourse, which you mentioned sounded like Buddhist.
Okay, so I think I mentioned that it's called Abheda Jnana and Daishika Vyavarana Vilopa, and it's part of two discourses. The other one was called Tanmatric Samadhi, and I think they were given one after the other. And both of them relate to the importance of the point. So, and they're in the electronic edition. And I think So, yeah, I will give some notes. You'll have to follow up with it. But if I spend any more time on that, we won't be able to finish. Okay, so let's go on to the final part, which is mantra. And so I came across another nice discourse where Baba was talking about Shiva. And he said a person becomes like his or her Ishta, their goal, and talks only about that. And I can't see this. For example, Shabda Brahma, Brahma expressed as sound, or Om, Omkar. The first singer and dancer of India and of the world was Sadashiva. Can I make my thing disappear? Maybe I can. Oh, good. And he talked about Shabda Brahma. He named it Nada. His existence was indeed sonic. Likewise, one who thinks about matter will one day become matter. This is the natural law. So this line, his existence was indeed sonic, it really struck me, and I thought, we usually think of ourselves in terms of our body, but that's the tiniest part of our existence. And as you think, so you become. If you focus on Bhavanam Kevalam or your mantra all the time, you become what you focus on. And that's what Baba is saying here. He said his existence, he was a sonic existence. So try to, when you're repeating your mantra, remember that you become. You're not a person. We limit ourselves when we think I'm a person. Think I am a song. I am a ray of light. Anything subtle. And train yourself to think about that more and more. Think of the whole universe as sound. Because everything vibrational is a sound. Right? So I found that helpful when I'm repeating my mantra, that I can actually, helps me let go of my heavy identification with the material elements, and helps me celebrate and experience my subtle existence if I think of myself as a song. This is an image that has been helpful for me and very helpful for new people. Think of your mantra. You are repeating it, inhaling and exhaling, and using it like an iron. The ironing board is the idea of the divine. Your mind is the shirt, and the mantra is an iron smoothing out all the wrinkles. It helps a lot, and in fact, that's exactly what we're doing. Another image I find useful, we're coming back to that. It was a long, kind of a roller on a stick, but here's a beautiful picture of using a paintbrush. So think of your mantra like that. You're just using it to paint over all these differences and creating sameness. Think of the mantra as a sword, right? So it's cutting through distractions. Instead of worrying about, I've got this distraction or that distraction, just think of your mantra as a sword and use it as a weapon. And it's a powerful weapon, and if you think it that way, it kind of increases your capacity to do something good with it. And there's that story of how Alexander cut through the Gordian knot instead of wasting time trying to undo it. And the reason the mantra works like that is because it is the nature of our mind that it can only actually think of one thing at a time. So if you keep it engaged with your mantra, then it leaves no space for other thoughts to occupy you. So the key is to keep your mind occupied with what's the most important thing. Now, another really amazing quote from Baba. Sometimes, even intelligent people who know something is wrong do it anyway. This is due to the power of sanskars. When even the mind of a learned person runs towards crude physicality, then what can forcibly draw the mind towards subtlety, towards benevolence, and break the shackles of crude bondage? The living mantra can. So knowing and remembering that your mantra has that power, and when you find yourself tempted and pulled by different things, as we always are, and I think the intelligent people described here are probably most of us, at least some of the time. So remember that the Siddha mantra has that power to forcibly draw the mind towards subtlety. And if you have confidence in your tools, right? If you have faith in your tools and use them with that awareness, it adds to their power and it makes you more willing to use them. Sometimes we have these tools and we don't know how to use them. We don't know what these things are capable of. So this relates also, of course, to the chakra point. It is centering, but the mantra can also be doing that. The example I give for my students is when you are walking down the stairs, you are walking down the stairs, but with one hand you are just lightly touching the handrail to keep your balance. So similarly, as you go around your daily work, you're doing your work, but internally keep one hand touching the mantra and use that to keep your balance. So here's another discourse. I'm sorry, I should have just put all the names of them down the bottom. But yeah, use the mantra as a metronome. So the metronome keeps time. We use it in music, right? So it keeps this rhythm and even time. And there's something that we like about that. There's something that keeps us happy when there's a nice rhythm. So we can actually, if you use your mantra, you can, be going along with a nice rhythm all the time. Human beings try to find rhythm in everything because human life itself is rhythmic. Movement is a natural characteristic of life. So rhythm must exist within human movement. If life's movement were continuous or linear, then there would be no scope for rhythm, and without rhythm, there can be no happiness either. So in this universe, all movement flows in the waves of systolic order. It is in this rhythm that one encounters the sweetness inherent in movement. Thus people want rhythm in their actions. They want to enjoy the sweetness of the rhythmicity of movement. So keep that in mind, not only for your mantra, especially for your mantra. The more you say the mantra and keep with that rhythm, the more it adds this wonderfully enjoyable sense of rhythm. But also in the way you design your life so that it has rhythm in it. Bhavanam Kevalam. There's something so elegant and clean and simple. And it is simplicity that brings peace to the mind. So only the name of the beloved. Focus on that simplicity and use the mantra as a way of getting back in touch with simplicity, as a way of simplifying everything. And notice how much you enjoy simplicity. So it's very important, or it can be very powerful, Oftentimes we don't get much out of our meditation because we just do it in a routine way. But you can change that. I talked about doing namaskar, but another part of it is thinking, why or am I doing this meditation? And setting an intention. Once my younger brother wrote to me and he shared like 4 pages of all his goals. And I was in a little bit of a low point in that. And I thought to myself, there's nothing that I'm motivated about at the moment. I can't think of a single goal that I'm really excited about. And I thought about it for a couple of days. What is it that I can, what's a goal that can motivate me and that I feel happy about? And it can make me want to wake up in the morning. And finally I said, okay, here's my goal. I want to achieve Nirvikalpa Samadhi by the end of the year. Yeah, wow. I thought, okay, that's something I can get excited about. I'm not really interested in anything else. That goal will that's all I need. That's quite enough. And I found it just turned my sadhana and everything around. So think about an intention. I wrote one that I like at the moment. Of course, I change it and I think about it and try to make it fresh from time to time. But here, one that's in my mind recently is, from now until the end of time, my only duty is to repeat the mantra. And Baba, in fact, I think it's in Namami Krishna Sundaram, he says something like that. That really our only duty is to remember him. And this above quote up here is from Swami Shivananda in his book about sadhana. But we'll move on due to time. So again, the spirit that we bring to the meditation makes the meditation, and I referred to that discourse earlier where Baba said that having that spirit of service is really, you can reach the highest goal even with the simplest form of meditation if you have that. Of course, here Krishna is serving Radha, but I'm sure she feels inspired by this service to serve him also, and probably he wouldn't serve her if she wasn't totally devoted. But think about it. Actually, Parampurusha is giving a lot more service to us than we are to him. We just can try to give back a tiny little amount. In every moment, he is serving us and helping us and taking care of us. So think about that idea when you start your meditation. Keep that feeling of service in it. And that can transform, on certain days, nothing seems to be working right. And meditation is, you just know it's going to be difficult. Physical and whatever circumstances, that's the way it is. But if you have that spirit of service, somehow you will feel satisfied, you'll feel happy with the meditation, because you came to the meditation with the idea that let me give the best I can, and you weren't thinking about what I can get out of it. Another thing that popped into my mind recently that makes me smile and makes me want to say my mantra more is that he likes it when I say his name, right? And there's something about that. So especially for kirtan, if you take that idea when you're singing kirtan, then it will help you enjoy it more and put a smile on your face. And it'll encourage you to remember the mantra more. Here's something that hit me some time back, that, if I would describe myself when I became a monk, I would describe myself as 51% monk and 49% romantic. And it's just, it's how we're educated socially, and that we are programmed to look for romance externally. But the moment that it occurred to me that I could, admit to Paramapurusha, look, Paramapurusha, I, like everyone, am looking for romance. It's a fact. I'm a monk, but I'm looking for romance. But to turn that search for that longing for something beautiful and romantic, to turn that desire for romance towards Paramapurusha. And it was like an instantaneous change for me. The moment I said to Baba, Baba, I'm looking for romance, and I turned that towards him, it was like I got a taste of it right away, that moment. And I remember once when I was in Baba's room with a lot of other acharyas, and I was watching Dada Ramananda serve him, and I thought, wow, he has a nice job. And then I thought, I wish I could have that job. And the moment I thought that, Baba turned around, looked right at me, and he said, and what does the little boy say? And I was too embarrassed to reply. But I've never forgotten that, the moment you have that kind of, you really focus your thoughts on him, then the response is just like instantaneous. So we all want romance, and it doesn't occur to most of us to look for it in meditation. But try it. Try that thought and see what happens. Okay, so this is my last slide, and this is about the bath mantra. So when I do bath mantra, I keep repeating it until I feel I'm connecting with the ancestors and the rishis who are always present, the siddhas, right? And that they have done so much for the world, and maybe I can help them continue. And I pray for their support in my, trying to carry on the great work that they started. So there's this lovely quote where Baba says, we cannot say that something which has gone out of human reach no longer exists. For the supreme cognition, there is no bondage of relativism. What is considered past to the people of the relative world remains ever present on the lap of Sadashiva, like a loving child dancing on the lap of the Supreme Father for eternity. So they're always there, Buddha and all the great saints, and tap into it with your bath mantra, right? And just spend that time until you feel you are connecting to all these people who have carried humanity on its journey, and join with them and share that strength. All right. So I finished within a little less than my hour. Is there any last question?
Dadaji, I'd like to ask maybe a little bit personal question. When you connect to the ancestors, do you think about your blood relatives, like father, grandfather, great-grandfather?
No, I don't. Sometimes I think about my father a little bit, but it's mostly I think about, the siddhas and great sages, and just in a very general way. I don't think about anyone in particular. I just think of it as in a general way.
We had a comment in the thread from Tito. Thank you very much, Tata. Beautiful talk. Kalyana, thank you very much. Beautiful.
Thank you. All right. So thank you all for your presence, and I'll leave it there. Namaskar.
Namaskar, Dada. Thank you for sharing your spiritual insights and inspirational meditation strategies. Been a pleasure to have you with us today.
Likewise, I'm grateful for the opportunity. It was really enjoyable to prepare it also.
Thank you. So this last slide that was up is about the Guru Pool conference that will be in Romania in July of next year, which everyone here, of course, is invited to attend. And this is an 8-week course that I'll be teaching for the college on teaching Ashtanga Yoga to 3 to 10-year-olds. It's all in English, hardly any Sanskrit. So if you have some people who are not yoga meditation practitioners in your school that you would like to take this would be appropriate for people who are not practicing meditation as an introduction to 8-limb yoga. So now we're going into, what do we have here? Prama, Ananda Murti's balance asanas. This will be facilitated by Pashupati in every AMAYE conference, plus with all the presentations that are made, we try to find one that's participatory and that people may either participate in their homes or wherever they are, or they may just observe them and they are welcome to take notes. So Pashupati is an accomplished yoga trainer and yoga teacher. He does these things globally. He has been doing this for over 40 years. He is a senior acharya in the Ananda Marga system. Living in the United States, he is a semi-retired family doctor. I don't know if any of us actually become fully retired. And he is one of the founding fathers of the Neo-Humanist College of Asheville. Pashupati has published research on how yoga education and yoga practice reduces the reincarnation. I knew I was going to say reincarnation. The reincarceration of prisoners, which is prisoners returning to the prison scene 2 times. So he has a research on that. His Shiva's Dancing School of Yoga is certified by Yoga Alliance. And so without further ado, please get ready for some yoga with Pashupati.
Bhavanam Kevalam Bhava Kevalam Bhavanam Kevalam Bhava Kevalam Bhavanam Kevalam Bhavanam Kevalam Bhavanam Kevalam Bhavanam Kevalam. Namaskar. Welcome to this AMAYE class. We are joined by Tarak and by Rina, who are my assistants and who keep me going. And today we're going to be discussing and demonstrating and educating, by the grace of God, Baba's asanas for balance. All right, so first sit like this, roll around with your spine. Roll around the wrists. Make a fist. Move the elbows. Move your shoulders. Let's do the rock and roll. Back and forth like this. Side to side. And bringing the feet together, take a breath, lean forward, come back up, press, and down, and lean forward again.
Can you adjust a little bit your camera? Thank you.
Wow. Okay. And now I have to adjust it back again. And now come to a standing position and roll around, breathing in as you come up, breathing out as you come down. Again, one more time. Good. Let's go the other direction. Okay. And shake out the shoulders. Okay. And now we will do this first asana called the Tula Dandasana. Tula means hanging and Danda means stick. So you stand like this, and I'll be sideways, and place the hands on the hips and take a breath in. Remember to breathe in the stomach and then the chest. And then lean forward, fix your gaze on something on the ground, and then pick the back leg up and hold that for 30 seconds. I'm watching you, my demonstrators. And you can bring your elbows up if you can, and see what you can do to stay parallel to the ground. A mirror or a friend is helpful for that. Very good. And another 10 seconds. And now come back down. Very nice, class. Okay. And now wiggle the hips a little bit just to loosen up those erector spiny muscles. So this asana builds the muscles of the glutei and the back. It builds the concentration and the balance. And it also stretches the hamstring. So it's considered very good for athletes. And by the way, those of you who have any artificial hips, artificial knees, you have to be very, very careful about this, doing these asanas. And if your balance is not so good, stand near something that you can hold on to so that you don't fall. So when you're teaching, you have to make sure that people aren't falling. So let's do the other side.
I'm holding on to Baba.
Take a breath in. Lean out. And pick up the other leg. I don't remember which leg I picked up, but anyway. And hold that 30 seconds. 2, 3, 4, 5. And try and keep your hips parallel to the ground. Elbows are up. Okay, very good. And back down. And roll yourself around a little bit. Mobilize the hips. So Tarek and Rena, if you have any questions or comments, you may ask. Other people may put into the chat. And at the time of this projection, I will be in India. And I will answer them as best as I can. Okay, the next one that we're going to do is the Jnana Asana. And this is going to be good for students. It's the knowledge pose. And so this Jnana Asana is done sitting. And if your knees are bad, this is not one for you. But I'll show a variation also. So in this one, you can get down on your hands and knees and then roll back onto your heels. So and my toes are curled forward. And then you bring one foot, support yourself here. If your balance is not so good, you can get some blocks and put them under your hands, and that will make it easier. And you can actually have your full hand on the ground as needed, or ultimately your fingertips. Then you bring one foot forward to rehearse it. And now you fix your gaze on something that's not moving. And now you pick this foot up, and this hand holds steady. The hand that has the knee that's up, that hand is down. And repeat your Guru Mantra and look up. 30 seconds.
Oh, this is difficult.
Okay, very good. And back down. And this develops concentration and focus. I recommend it for children who have ADHD or any similar concentration difficulties. Okay, now we're going to do the other side. So again, get back on your hands and knees, curl your toes, roll back, steady yourself, and then bring one foot forward. When you do that, the weight tends to shift from the ischial tuberosity, from your sitting bone, to the center between those sitting bones. Then you pick your foot up, plant this foot firmly, or this hand firmly, and then find your space. And then after 30 seconds, come back down. So the Bandasana, that one was done up to 4 times. This Yamasana is also done 4 times, 3 or 4 times. Back and forth, back and forth. All right. Any questions so far, Tarak or Rina?
Is this the variation or the pose?
So this pose is 30 seconds.
Oh, my question, that was the pose, right?
Yeah, that was the pose. The next one is called Jatila Utkatasana. It's a little bit easier, and it develops the hips and the spine and the posture, and it's also developing the concentration. So it doesn't require as much balance as some of the others. So we'll start just by straightening the legs out. I'm wearing black socks so you can see my feet, or so I can see my feet. And now we sit again. We support ourselves with the fingertips on the ground. Use blocks as needed to. And now we're going to separate the knees as much as possible. And we put one hand on the pelvis and the other here. And this again is a 30-second asana.
These are great.
And then you can come down when your concentration loses itself. All right, hold the thought for 30 seconds. Okie doke. And release.
I can meditate in that position.
Okie doke. So again, so that one is an easier balance pose than the other. And it can be done as a good rehearsal to get into the actual Gyanasana. Now the next one, you'll say, well, I can't do that because very few people can do this. It's called the Utkat Kurmakasana. And okay, so for those of you who have trouble sitting in half lotus, we will teach you one called the Ananda asana. This is another good warm-up. So put one foot into your belly button and then inhale and stretch it out. Hold. And then exhale, bring your foot up to the chest. And inhale and stretch it out. And exhale up to your knee, up to your forehead. Inhale, stretch out. And then exhale and over your head. Now, Tarak, you've eaten something, so be gentle on this. And stretch out and down. Then we do the other side. Bring your foot into your belly button. Exhale. Inhale, stretch. Exhale up to your chest. Inhale, stretch. Exhale up to your head. Inhale, stretch. Exhale over your head. Good. And this is also a very good one as a warm-up for the Kurmakasana. So just to balance ourselves physically, place your hands behind your back and elevate the hips all the way. And look back, let your head drop back. Will make your spine move.
So what's the position of the legs here? Are we cross-legged and the last one?
So right now, I'm just in, this is called eating pose, Sukhasana or Bhojan Asana. Bhojan means food. And in India or elsewhere, when you have no table, you are sitting and your food is in front of you like this and eating with your fingers. And this Bhojan Asana is used in other asanas like the Gomukh, like the Yoga Mudra. So you sit like this.
Excuse me for a second, I'll have to go to the bathroom.
Okay. All right. Now, so this next one is the Utkat Kurmakasana. And you think, well, that's not a balance pose, but you're actually sitting on the floor. And in theory, you bring your foot over your head, and then you bring your other foot over your head. But I can't do that. So the balance part is this. You bring one foot up here, up to your chest. You bring your hand between your calf and your thigh, and you bring the other leg and lock the ankles. Place your hand between the calf and your thigh, and you're balancing on your sitting bone, and you do namaskar. Now this one, if you lose your balance, you do this. And you can just do that for fun, but you're holding here. And we'll hold for 30 seconds. And release. And the benefit of this asana is it brings the whole body in together. So you become like a cannonball. You are ready to do anything. So stretch your feet out and let's do it one more time. So You bring your, let's say, your right leg up, put your right hand between the thigh and the calf, and then we bring the left leg up and we lock the ankles and we get into our prayer pose. And then if you can, touch your forehead. And release. Okay? Very good. So any questions? And Rena, when you speak, speak loudly so I can hear you nicely.
Okay.
So the next one is called Bhavasana. Now, Bhava is a state where your mind is completely filled with bliss and everything in the world is blissful, even the stuff you ordinarily don't like. You just perceive it as manifestations of God and you just flow through it. So, to do the Bhavasana, now you need to see my feet. So we'll start as if we're doing the chair pose. Can you see my head?
Yeah.
So in the chair pose, you bring your arms forward, and I'm turning side to side so you can see me, and you sit down. You don't lean forward, you don't lean back.
Against the wall?
You can do it against the wall. If you go against the wall, you will feel when your spine is straight, because your whole body should be against the wall. So go back against the closet. Have your shoulder. There we go. Okay, otherwise then you'll be like this. And now come away. That's it. Arms out. And this is a 30-second pose. Okay? Now, in the Bhavasana, we start same thing, but now we turn our feet all the way out, 180 degrees. And bring your hands into prayer pose, Namaste position. And you look at your Trikuti. This is the point where the Ida, Pingala, and Shushumna nadis escape. So the point between your eyebrows. And you hold that, and then you bring your arms to the right, 8 seconds, 2, 4, 7, 8, and then arms to the left, 2, 4, 5. And then behind your back, and you do Namaskar behind your back. And so that looks like this. And the feet are behind. For 8 seconds. Those of you who cannot do this position because of your shoulders or wrists, you bring your hands down like that, or the back of your hands. Makes it a lot easier. Okay? So mobilize the shoulders. And let's do it again. So get your breathing straight. Chair pose, down. Bring the feet opposite. And now we're getting to this position where our mind is focused on the Supreme. Our body is doing these variations of salutations. So you're looking arms to the right and look at your Trikuti. And then to the left, the hand is all the way across. And then behind yourself, keep looking at your Trikuti, elbows back, palms together, and then come up. So this asana, in addition to being spiritual, is very good for developing the straightness of the spine, the will and determination, the mobilization of the wrists and the shoulders. And in my spine, I always need to straighten it, so this is very good for that. Okay, questions so far? And thank you, Tarak and Nina, and Nina, and Kalyana, who's off screen, for joining us.
How far the feet should be apart?
Not much. They don't have to be absolutely together. In the Jatila Utkatasana that we did before, you want the toes, if you can, toes touching and the heels touching. So you're like this. But in this Bhavasana, you start in the chair pose and the feet are shoulder width or hip width apart. Some people like to discuss this as hip width or so.
Okay.
And then you turn them out from there. So they're not exactly together.
All right, thank you.
Okay, the next one, Bhavasana, we've done. The next one is called Granthi Muktasana. Granthi refers to knots. And so each chakra is considered to be a plexus or a knot where things come together. Mukta means liberating. So this asana liberates all of the chakras. And so it can be done first against the wall, or it can be done standing up, or it can actually be done lying down. So I'm going to demonstrate first lying down because you'll find that easier to do. In that position, it's not really a balance pose. Still, you get used to the idea. So I'm lying down here, and this is similar to that Landau asana, which I named after myself, that we did earlier, the warm-up. So you bring your right foot, and you touch your left nostril with the big toe of your right foot, and you're holding your you're holding your right foot with your left hand, and you bring that here, and you bring your hand way up over the head, and you hold that for 8 seconds. And then release. Take a couple of breaths. Remember to have your left nostril open, and we'll get into that in a second. And then you do your left foot, holding it with your right hand, and bring it up to your nose, and look up and back. And here you're bringing your left big toe to your right nostril. And then release. So Anandamurtiji really likes to have the asanas being a spiritual practice, and this left nostril tends to be controlling the parasympathetic nervous system and the relaxing mode, and the right nostril controls the sympathetic nervous system, which is the more activating muscular mode. So he likes the left nostril to be open. It doesn't have to be dominant, but at least open when you're doing asanas. So if you're finding your nostril is clogged, there's a nice mudra, which is called the nostril opening mudra. And you sit here and take your right knee and bring it up to your forearm, up to your axilla, up to your armpit. And you take your armpit and press it into the knee and hold that toe or whatever you can reach. And you just hold that for 20 or 30 seconds. And it will open your left nostril. So Tarak, you have to have the knee actually pressing into the armpit, not near, but these nerves. And those of you who cannot bring your knee all the way up, you can get a tennis ball or put your fist in and hold it that way. and that pressure on these nerves on the right side will open the nostril on the left side. And the reverse is also true. So, having done all that preparation, we're going to stand up and do the
But we can lean to the one side, Dada.
You can do it with both sides. The idea is to
No,
open
we
the
can
left.
lean also, like if we lean to the right side like this, automatically also this gonna open, right?
Yes. The other thing, if you are lined on your right side, and so now Rina is in what's called Vishnu Mudra. And so you do that and supporting yourself or letting your elbow relax and put your head down on your arm. Either one of those will help to open up the nostril on the left side. It takes longer. Thank you. Okay. So now we're going to do this Granthi Muktadasana, and in the standing position, so the feet are normal, and just repeat your mantra. It's good to focus on one thing because this is a balance pose. In the beginning, if you're not used to it, you can stand with your back against the wall and then pick up your right foot with your left arm and bring that into your nose, arm up. And then back down. Take a few breaths. And Tarak is doing a variation, which gives you some of the balance. Now, what's the deal? Why am I putting my foot in my nose? And so the answer is Baba likes the various parts of the body to be connected. So here you are integrating the right side of the body, which is the more rational, with the left side of the body, which is the more intuitive. Because the right side of the body corresponds to the left side of the brain, and the left part of the body corresponds to the right side of the brain. And so by connecting these various parts, you develop an integrated personality, being able to use your intuition and rationality at the same time. So now we do the other leg. So get in, and by the way, just as a review, this is called Tadasana. And so in this, the feet are hip width apart and standing straight. And here, you're not hunched forward, you're not leaning back, but you bring your shoulders up and arms, bring the arms back, and let your hands dangle a little bit straight. Engage your thighs a little bit, not much. And your ears and everything are in line. And this in itself is a balanced pose, and it gives you good preparation for the other asanas. It's a very centered pose. It's not the same as being at attention, because in attention you have too much tension in your body. It's at tension. So it's more a little bit relaxed, but okay. In gymnastics, when we do a handstand, people often do handstands like this. But in gymnastics, over the last 20, 30 years, or 50 years really, since I started doing that, you rock the pelvis a little bit and straighten the body more, and you get more height. So you're dropping your tailbone. And this is a different kind of balance pose called a handstand. Okay, I'm not doing handstands today. So let's do the other side of the Granthi Muktanasana. All right, so we take the left foot and bring it up to our right nostril. And then elevate the arm. Holding 8 seconds. And then back down. Okay, very good. So, the next one is called the Garuda Asana. That asana is where you feel like you're flying. you become like a flying bird. So we start in the Tadasana, and we bring our feet some, and now we are keeping our body in a plane. I used to do it this way, but I've gotten corrected. And so the arms are straight out, you're looking to one side, and the back leg raises. The hips are parallel, and you're holding for 30 seconds. You're keeping your body straight up and down. Your toes are pointed. Let me show you my toes. And your back leg can be bent a little bit, and you're keeping your body pretty much up. You can bend your leg for balance. And then relax, mobilize the hips. Good. Here's another little back warm up that I like. Placing your hands on the knees and keeping the feet close together, and then walk back and forth with a round back. And if you're standing, this will help mobilize the lumbar spine and the sacroiliac joint. Keeps it from getting tight and frozen. Okay, and then we stand up and we do the other side. So you point your one foot in that direction. Your arms come up. Your arms come up. And raise the back leg. And so my hips are in line with my body. The leg is up, and you can elevate it and look forward. Look towards your above the hand. 30 seconds. Keeping the body upright and straight, and feel like you're flying. And relax. So this builds up your balance, your intentionality, and the muscles on the side of your body and the sides of your stomach. These are the hip adductors and the, not the transversus abdominis. And this is the rectus abdominis, and this is the abdominal obliques. And it develops all those muscles plus your posture. Okay. And it develops the feeling of flying, which is kind of fun. I was going to think, dun, 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 which is the Superman song, for those of you who were born in the 1950s. So, finally, the next one we will do is called the Mandukasana. And it's not strictly speaking a balance pose. And before we do that, I will teach you how to levitate. So, or maybe we'll do Kukutasana also. Not a bad idea. It's not exactly a balance pose, but it requires balance. So we'll start easy. To levitate, we sit on the ground, and for those of you who do not have lotus pose, you will do this in Bhojanasana. So place your hands on the ground and elevate your hips. That's it. Let your head come back. Good. Okay. And now elevate your knees. Knees up in the air. Tarak, knees up. There we go. Okay. Good. Now if you have difficulty, if you think your arms are short, doesn't matter much, but you can get blocks and put your blocks under your hands. Now you pick yourself up in the air. And this develops wrist strength, and it develops strength in the abdominal muscles and the psoas muscles.
And forearms.
And the forearms. Now, an actually easier asana is to do this in lotus pose. So for lotus pose, you put your right foot on top of your left thigh and the left foot on top of the right thigh, and you can rock back and forth, or just hold for a while. Okay, very good. And now, this actually is a balance pose, although it's pretty difficult. And usually I do this in shorts. We'll see what happens here. So this is, you place your right hand between your ankle and the calf on the one side, and your left hand between the ankle and calf on that side.
No, that's impossible.
And have to get a little bit higher up in the air. There we go.
Ooh, there you go, Dada. Very nice.
And that's called the Kukudasana. Okay, and then stretch your knees out.
So I didn't get it. Where did you put the hands?
Say again, Rena.
I didn't get it. Where did you put the hands? Through where? Like.
Okay, that's a good question. So when you're first practicing, you put your hands outside, and you do this kind of levitation pose.
Okay.
And then, when you're doing the way Bala described it, you put your right hand, your hands go, you get into your lotus pose. You have to get into a tight lotus. Your right hand goes between the thigh and the calf, like so. See that?
Ah, okay.
It's in front of the ankle. So there's a triangle between the ankle, or between the foot and the calf and the thigh. And you put it all the way. Coconut oil can help you. That makes it slippery so you can get your hands through. And then you have to put the other hand through up to your elbow if you can. And then, so similarly, the hand and forearm go between your calf and your thigh and the triangle formed by your foot. Then you lean forward and come up.
Oh, good job, Dada.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't planning that, but it seemed like a good idea. So, this next one is even harder. It's called Mandukasana. And, by the way, the benefit of that Kukutasana is it develops the strength in the forearms, and it develops some flexibility, and it develops the strength in the abdominal muscles and determination. So asanas are supposed to be positioned held comfortably. Well, that wasn't uncomfortable, but it was hard. So anyway, so the Manduka Asana, you're sitting in lotus pose, or if you don't have lotus, you will sit in Bhojanasana. And you place your hands, you interlace your fingers, but underneath your butt, or underneath your tailbone someplace. And we'll do this first in the Bhojanasana. And you skip forward 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And then backwards 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now be on a soft surface. You don't want to hurt your coccyx on a hard surface. So make sure you have a little bit of padding of some kind or another, a yoga mat or a good blanket. Okay? And now we're going to do it in lotus pose. So you get into full lotus if you can. If you don't have lotus, you can do half lotus. or you can do the Bhojanasana as we did before. Clasp your hands underneath and go 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. And that's supposed to help you go without food for a longer period of time. And it's also kind of fun. Okay. Well, friends and neighbors, that's about it for the balance poses and a few others. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Dadaji. It was amazing.
Okay, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much, Dada.
Okay, very good. So now let's do our massage and corpse. I will spend a little time on this. Those of you who wish to turn off the tape, you may already know how to do this. So you rub the hands together and, oh, one more thing here. These are eye exercises. So you look at your thumbs, bring them in close, and go to the left and up and around this way and go out far. And then again, bring them in close. And this exercises all of the muscles of the eye, except for the orbicularis oris, which is the muscles that you blink with. But the trochlea and the abducens and I forget the names, I'm not in that medical mode right now, but there's 6 muscles that control the position of the eye, and there are internal muscles that control the constriction of the lens. And then there are muscles that control the iris of the eye, which makes the pupil bigger or smaller. And so by exercising those, you develop the capacity to see better near or far. Okay, and then you heat up your hands and then make your eyes feel like they're loved and warm them up. And go back through your scalp several times. Massage, by the way, helps keep hair. So I still have some hair by the grace of God or genetics or doing massage, I'm not sure what. And then from the forehead down, up in the ears. And as a health item, I like to use a loofah sponge on my face and other parts of the body because I've had skin cancers and I find that sometimes little bumps come up and I use a loofah sponge when I'm bathing. And that releases the skin so those little bumps go away. So whatever they are, they're gone. And then do your face. And the lymph glands and salivary glands in your throat. And the thyroid and the parathyroids. I can't say that this will heal these because I did have a parathyroid tumor that grew to the size of a golf ball at one point. It got taken out. My symptoms were really minimal. And so maybe that helped control that, but ultimately it needed to be taken out, so it did. And then reach around behind you and under the armpit. And here you're massaging the nerves and the lymph glands in the armpit and then working the way down. And by massaging the lymph glands, we feel that you're empowering your immune system, making your immune system feel loved and appreciated. And pull and twist on your fingers. And cracking your knuckles releases mental tension for many people. Don't do it in group meditations. People don't like the sound. It breaks concentration. But it's fun by yourself. Does not cause arthritis. My son is an orthopedic surgeon and he tells me it does not cause arthritis. So reach around, do your back. And then the armpit. And work your way down. Massaging the muscles of the hands and the fingers. And pull and twist. Good. And down to the chest. And then down to the belly. Again, normally it's best to do asanas in your underwear. And some people like to do this Agnisara Mudra. and hold that as part of the massage. Tarak, don't do this, you've eaten. Okay, reach around and come back and reach what you can. Massage your entire back. And you can get loofah sponges and large ones that can do the skin on your back, and then reverse and use your other hand and just mobilize the spine a little bit. And now the hip and the buttock. And now placing your thumbs or fingers, I like thumbs better, into the groin. And then working your way down, because there are many lymph nodes in the groin itself. And back and forth on the knee, and behind the knee, and down the calf. And roll around the foot, and massage the bottom of your foot and the top of the foot. Many sensitive nerves in the foot. The foot has as many nerves in the brain as the hand does. And so you knuckle down the inside, outside, and middle. People make a living massaging feet, and they say it attaches to different organs in the body. I'm not sure about that, but they say it, so it's fun. And do the other leg and the hip. Work your way down. Back and forth on the knee. And down the calf. Rotate around. Massaging the foot. Anything that's sensitive on the foot, pay special attention to. I have arthritis in this big toe. And people who have gout get arthritis in that toe often. And with massage and warmth, you break up the crystals and minimize the difficulty. My arthritis came from trying to imitate my young boy, and I stuck my foot in between two gymnastic mats and twisted it 30 years ago. So now I meditate with one sock on the foot to keep it warm so I don't have symptoms anymore. You know, otherwise the foot gets cold and then the crystals develop. So massage your feet. And some people like to slap their feet to wake them up at the end. And now we do corpse pose for a few minutes and sign off. In the corpse pose, we're lying down. If your back is not good in the lying down position, you can bring your feet towards your hips, turn the heels outward, let the knees flop towards each other, and that will be easier on your back, or put a pillow under your knees, otherwise lie down straight. Take a nice breath, bring your arms up over your head, stretch everything out, stretch your toes, let your whole body get aligned, wiggle your spine, and then bring your hands down, palms up, and relax your toes and the feet and the calves. And for those of you who are teachers, if you're teaching this pose from a lying down position, mobilize your voice so that you project more, and I'll explain that in a minute. Into the knees and the thighs, letting the entire lower part of the body be forgotten. Let it go. And the belly and the pelvis, the organs of the digestion, just relax. The chest and the heart and the lungs. The low back and the spine. and the upper body, the shoulder blades, and the shoulders and the neck muscles, the trapezii, all floating into the floor. Focusing on the hands and the fingers, and the palms and the wrists, and the forearms, and the elbows and the upper arms. And the shoulders across to the neck and throat, and into the mouth and the tongue, the eyes, the ears, the scalp, the brain, the mind. And let yourself go completely. Just drift in bliss for a while. You can imagine that you're not, and take as long as you like. And now I salute you using my diaphragmatic voice, projecting without effort. And I render my salutations to those of you who are taking this class, and those of you who have been privileged to be with me, and my privilege to be with you. And thank you. Folks, I'm here and I can answer questions or take criticisms or compliments, whatever you want. I've magically appeared in person.
Does anyone have questions for Pashupati?
Welcome from India. I am in Jamalpur at the DMS.
I have one question. If you give some restrictions regarding age, like if you teach yoga to elderly, what do we say that some of these asanas are recommended only up to a certain age, or you encourage everyone to do?
Right. So everything I showed you must not be done by anybody over 60.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, you can do all the variations by having them hold on to things.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I teach the elderly demented, people who can't even hardly say their name.
Mm-hmm.
And I will show you what I do.
Yes.
So I have them walk around to the back of their chair, and then I hold one leg up like this. Then maybe I hold an arm up, or I have them tap the chair. So they're just, just holding like this. So I'll have them do the Tuladandasana, and I hold them like this. So it becomes very safe. So all of these balance asanas can be done a little bit. The floor sitting and picking the legs up, picking your butt up, and even, getting up like this can be done, and it can be done in a chair. Let's say I'm here, and I pick your feet up, hold, and I use your arms to pick up here. And then maybe, if they want to try that, and some of them can, so it just depends on your population. You want to be safe, but balance and falling is a big deal in the elderly, and yoga has been, Tai Chi certainly, to a lesser extent, yoga has been found to help prevent fractures and falls. So as much as they can be mobile and use their legs and arms in unusual ways, they'll be less likely to fall.
Can I say something, Pashupati?
Thank you.
Can I say something?
So. Please do.
I teach 70 and 80-year-olds, and we do many of these balance poses, especially the ones that aren't, like, there's some that are extremely difficult and some not so much, and they all do all of them with modifications. And I think continuing to do the balance poses, even with modifications, you're shifting the weight and they're getting that sense of that change of your center of gravity. And I think it really helps to stabilize your sense of balance the more you practice them.
Right. And by the way, I'm going to start selling these t-shirts and get a good look here.
Yeah, it's great.
Very nice. Very nice.
And this is what's on the back. Great. Okay.
Very good. Do we have one more question for Pashupati?
Sure. Yep.
Is there another question out there?
Wonderful session.
Thank you, Dada. Thank you. Okay. Here's one of my
Well,
roommates.
thank you for doing this class for us, Pashupati.
Sure thing. So
includes our Shine Brighter with Yoga Practices conference. And so I close this event by thanking all of you for your participation and for sharing your ideas and helping us to move forward. Many thanks to Rudra Mohan, Didi Ananda Sanjana, Dada Krishna Sevananda, Shravan, and Pashupati for their dynamic presentations and for their inspiration. And I hope that you're walking away with some new understandings of yoga practices. A big hug to Neo-Humanist College of Asheville and Rishi. And please feel free to contact AMAYE at info@amaye.org about our newsletter or upcoming Ananda Marga guide that's coming out soon. Dada Shamashivananda, did you want to say anything before we shut down here?
Well, I just want to thank you for taking this initiative to organize this. And on behalf of Gurukul, AMAYE is an initiative of Gurukul. So we invite you all to our July 11th to 16th, 2025 global conference. There will be many AMAYE educators there. So we will have some meetings there concerning AMAYE also. So thank you very much. And if any one of you who wishes to make a presentation in our next conference, please let us know. And we want to have this more often. And it is at least once every 2 years we are having. But if there is enough good presenters, then we might do it once in a year. But until we meet again, thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Dada.
Thank you.
So on behalf of AMAYE, the AMAYE team, we wish that you may shine brighter through yoga practices. Until we meet again, namaskar, and thank you for coming and joining us.